Chapter 27-28. Wang Xinyan's room was a super large ICU, and the outer room was for family members to rest. Linny walked in and everyone froze. "Linny? Why are you here?" Xiaolong didn't expect Linny to come, and wondered how Linny found his way here. "Wang Xinyan's sick, so I can't come?" Linny looked at Xiaolong and walked into the inner room. "Wait, don't go in." Xiaolong stood in front of Linny, trying to stop him from entering the inner room. "What's wrong with you?" Linny looked at Xiaolong. "I'm here to visit a classmate. Do I need your permission?" "You." Xiaolong didn't expect Linny to be so domineering. He just told Linny about Kong Mingming. Why wasn't Linny afraid at all? "Go away." Linny grabbed Xiaolong by the collar and dragged him to the side. He pushed the door open and walked into Wang Xinyan's room. "You." Xiaolong was furious. He turned to Xiaoji and Xiaoben, wanting them to say something, but the two of them were avoiding his gaze. They hated Linny, but they couldn't afford to piss off Linny. Linny didn't even give a damn about Xiaolong, so wouldn't they be humiliated if they went up to him? Xiaolong saw that Xiaoji and Xiaoben were cowards, and he had no choice but to follow Linny into the room. He saw Linny grabbing Wang Xinyan's hand, and his eyes were spitting fire. He ran over and pushed Linny's hand away. "Linny, don't go too far. Wang Xinyan is my fiancé. This is something the Xiao family has acknowledged. What right do you have to interfere? Let me tell you, I'm not a pushover. Our Kong family is no longer the old Kong family. My younger brother, Kong Mingming, is now the 8th elder of the Heavenly Elixir School, an ancient sect." "8th elder? I'll give you a slap." Linny was checking Xinyan's body when Xiaolong interrupted him. He was furious and slapped Xiaolong's face. "You dare hit me?" Xiaolong looked at Linny in disbelief. "Aren't you afraid that my brother will deal with you? You want to compare ancient background with me? I'm not afraid to tell you that my little wife is the future palace master of the Ice Palace. You have the background of an ancient sect, but who doesn't? Don't bring that up all the time. Go find him if you can." Linny said coldly. There was a limit to his patience. This Xiaolong was usually very active, and Linny didn't want to have a direct conflict with the Heavenly Elixir School, so he didn't bother with him. But today, Xinyan fainted out of nowhere, and Linny didn't believe that it had nothing to do with Xiaolong. Ugh! Xiaolong suddenly remembered Xiao Xiao, the girl who almost set him up when he ate with her last time. His mouth twitched. He knew about Xiao Xiao's situation, but he didn't think about it before. Now he finally understood why Linny wasn't afraid. He found himself a good wife. His brother was an elder, but his wife was the vice palace master, the future palace master. Her background wasn't any weaker than his. Why did Xinyan faint? Was it because of you? Linny frowned. Xinyan's body condition was a little better than it had been yesterday, especially after the potion. She was still weak, but fainting shouldn't have been the cause of her fainting. It had to be something else. Xiaolong didn't expect Linny to be so good, seeing through the cause of Xinyan's fainting so quickly. It was a misunderstanding. Linny was just guessing, but he had a guilty conscience. He thought that Linny had confirmed it. "You really did it?" Linny was even more certain after seeing Xiaolong's reaction. His face darkened. "I didn't. I saw Xinyan with you, so I went to the Xiao family. Is that wrong? She's my fiancé." Xiaolong was a little scared now. Using Kong Mingming's background to scare Linny didn't work. He was a little scared now. Slap. Linny slapped Xiaolong's face, knocking him to the ground. "Oh, I didn't like you, so I knocked you out. What's wrong with that?" Xiaolong didn't hear Linny's last sentence. If he did, he'd probably faint again. Linny carried Xinyan and walked out of the room. Xinyan's body was fine, and there was no point in staying here. It was better to bring her back. With Xiaolong unconscious, Linny carried Xinyan out of the room under the shocked eyes of Xiaoji, Xiaoben and Xiao Qinlin. Xiaoji and Xiaoben pouted, wanting to say something but didn't dare. They watched as Linny left, not daring to say anything. Xiao Qinlin, on the other hand, just sighed faintly, wondering if she had done something wrong. She shouldn't have forced her daughter to marry Xiaolong. But if she didn't let Xinyan marry Xiaolong, what would happen to the Xiao family? What would happen to her and her husband's medicine company? Xiaolong's background wasn't to be underestimated. But now it seemed like Linny wasn't afraid of Xiaolong at all. After Xiaolong exposed his background, he still dared to knock Xiaolong out. Was Linny being impulsive or was he confident? Qinlin wasn't sure about the pros and cons of this. It seemed like Xinyan liked being with him, didn't she? As Xinyan's mother, Qinlin naturally wanted her daughter to be happy. Her heart was leaning towards Lin Yi, but she didn't know if Lin Yi was a match for House Kong. And so Qinlin didn't stop them. She left with Lin Yi and her daughter. Xiaolong had fainted, and his fiancée was taken away by someone else. He couldn't blame anyone else. Lin Yi drove Xinyan back to the villa. Xinyan had fainted and hadn't woken up yet, so Lin Yi didn't want to carry her in train. He asked Mingyao and Yushu to help her change into her pajamas and slept upstairs. It was a quiet night. The next morning Lin Yi was preparing breakfast when he saw Mingyao, Yushu, and Xinyan come downstairs together. Xinyan wasn't sleeping? This situation surprised Lin. He was used to Xinyan sleeping all the way till noon, so he was surprised to see her wake up so early in the morning. Xinyan, you're up? Lin Yi asked. Yeah. Xinyan nodded shyly. But I'm still a little sleepy. I don't have much energy, but I'm up now. Chapter 27-29. It had to be the medicine, but Xinyan drank it every day and it didn't seem to get any better. How come today? Lin Yi walked over and held Xinyan's wrist, checking it carefully. But Lin Yi let out a surprised, eh. After inspecting it, Xinyan seemed to be in a good condition today. She was still weak compared to a normal person but much better than yesterday. It would be a good sign if this continued. What's wrong? Lin Yi. Lin Yi surprised Xinyan. Is there a problem? Nothing, just a little better than yesterday. Lin Yi said. Let's eat breakfast. Yeah, okay. Xinyan was happy to hear that her condition was better. She sat at the table. Right, what happened between you and Xiaolong yesterday? Lin Yi hadn't asked Xinyan about what happened yesterday. Yesterday? Xinyan was embarrassed and didn't know what to say. Shu, tell me. Mingyao could tell that Xinyan was a little shy, so she said to Yushu. She'd already told Yushu about Xinyan's situation this morning, so she only needed Yushu to relay it to her. Oh, actually, that idiot Xiaolong saw Xinyan's sis enter the villa and suspected that she wasn't a virgin. He went to the Xiao family and made a scene, wanting to take her to the hospital for a checkup. Xinyan was so embarrassed and angry that she fainted, Yushu said. Lin Yi was speechless. Lin Yi didn't know what to say about Xiaolong's actions. But thinking about it, Xinyan was his fiancée, so it was reasonable for him to make such a request. I knocked him out too, so it's a draw. Ah. Xinyan was shocked. She didn't know that Xiaolong was knocked out by Lin Yi. How did Lin Yi get into a fight with Xiaolong? She thought that her mother had brought her home after she fainted yesterday, but Lin Yi had knocked Xiaolong out instead. Did he snatch me back? It's fine, don't worry. Even if the Sky Elixir sect is an ancient sect, they wouldn't stand up for Kong Ming over something as small as this. Lin Yi comforted her with a smile. Oh. Xinyan nodded and started eating, but she was still a little worried. She was afraid that he was just trying to comfort her. Actually, Lin Yi wasn't worried at all. As far as Lin Yi was concerned, Kong Xiaolong wasn't even as strong as Zhong Pingliang. As long as he didn't kill him, the Heavenly Elixir sect wouldn't stand up for him so easily. At most, Kong Ming would bring a sky-class master over, and Lin Yi could assassinate him. If that didn't work, there was still a trap. After a while, Han Jingjing also arrived and everyone stopped talking about this topic. After breakfast, everyone left the villa and went to school. What surprised Lin Yi was that Xiaolong didn't come to school today. The 2 slaps that Lin Yi gave him yesterday weren't that heavy, and it couldn't have caused too much damage to Xiaolong, so he didn't come to school because of the slaps. In fact, Xiaolong didn't come today because he felt embarrassed. After he woke up, he didn't say goodbye to Xiao Ji, Xiao Ben or Xiao Qinlin. He stormed out of the ward and went straight to House Kong. He wanted to call Kong Ming and ask for his help. Xiaolong felt that he had lost a lot of face this time. He had to find a way to get back at him. Bro, why are you calling me in the morning? Aren't you in school? Kong Ming was a little surprised to receive the call from Xiaolong, but he wasn't as guarded against Xiaolong as before. In the past, the 2 of them were fighting for the position of young master of House Kong, but now Kong Ming didn't care about that position anymore. Their relationship had returned to normal. Xiaolong, your brother has lost a lot of face this time. You have to help me. Xiaolong said and told Kong Mingming everything that happened yesterday in detail. Kong Mingming listened to Xiaolong's words and fell silent. He was angry, but he knew that it wasn't realistic for him to leave the Sky Elixir sect and go after Lin Yi. Although he was a Sky Class Master, he was just a refiner. He didn't have any attacking abilities. He didn't think that he could do anything to Lin Yi. As for bringing a master out, Kong Ming knew that he hadn't established himself in the Sky Elixir sect yet to receive such treatment. Although he appeared to be very strong and powerful to the outside world, that was only to the outside world. Within the Heavenly Elixir sect, although he had become the 8th elder, he did not have his own people. He was just an elder without any followers. He was respected by others, but he could not order others to do things. Bro, what do you want me to do about this? I'm so far away from you, there's nothing I can do to help you. Kong Mingming hesitated and said, I'm a newbie in the Sky Elixir sect. I'm an elder, but I can't leave easily. Even if I leave, can I help you teach Lin Yi a lesson? Xiaolong calmed down after listening to Kong Mingming's words, but he didn't want to give up. Then can't you bring a Sky Class Master to scare Lin Yi? Not a Sky Class late phase peak, even a Sky Class mid phase is fine. Bro, do you think it's that easy to mobilize a Sky Class Master? I may be an elder, but I don't have my own followers. Besides, Sky Class Masters usually only listen to the elders, the head, the young master, and the grand elder. The other elders can only mobilize Earth Class disciples. They don't have the authority to mobilize Sky Class Masters. Kong Mingming smiled bitterly and explained, Bro, don't you understand? You can use the Sky Elixir sect's name, but it's too early for me to give you any real support. I don't have that ability yet. I understand. Xiaolong was a little dejected. No wonder Lin Yi wasn't afraid of him. Perhaps Lin Yi had predicted this from the start. But it was no wonder that Lin Yi's mistress was the vice sect master of the Ice Palace. The rules in the ancient sects were probably the same, so it wasn't surprising that Lin Yi knew about it. Chapter 2730. Most elders of the Sky Elixir sect had their own pride. Even if they respected Sky Silkworm, they wouldn't run around like a servant. So, Kong Mingming decided to become a lackey for Sky Silkworm as an elder in exchange for their support. Then, he'd be able to bring people to deal with Lin Yi. That was his ultimate goal. This was the only way for him to rise to the top. Otherwise, he'd have to stay in the Sky Elixir sect for dozens of years to raise his own people. Alright. Xiaolong sighed. Bro, don't worry too much. I can't go, but I'm good at picking up girls. Kong Mingming said. I feel that there's no need for conflict between you and Lin Yi. As long as you don't go against him, he won't hit you for no reason, right? Then yesterday, Xiaolong said. You left the school yesterday, and it was you who made Xinyan faint. It's normal for Lin Yi to hit you. Kong Mingming said. But if you were in school, Lin Yi wouldn't go overboard. You just need to chase Xinyan. If he dares to cause trouble for you, tell the teacher and boss bye. Tell the teacher? Kong Mingming sweated. He wasn't an elementary schooler anymore. Why would he tell the teacher after getting hit? But thinking about how Boss Bai didn't like conflicts between students, it was the most appropriate thing for him to do. Xiaolong nodded. That's true. You'll have to start with Xinyan. You're always going against Lin Yi, and it's hard for me. Kong Mingming said helplessly. After the excitement of becoming the 8th elder, Kong Mingming realized that the 8th elder was just a name. It was enough to scare people, but it wasn't enough to help Xiaolong teach Lin Yi a lesson. So use my name to scare people. But I used your name to scare Lin Yi yesterday, but Lin Yi wasn't scared at all. He even said that his wife is the future leader of the Ice Palace, who doesn't have an ancient background. Xiaolong said helplessly. It wasn't that he didn't want to use the tiger's skin, but Lin Yi could do it too. What Xiaolong didn't know was that Lin Yi didn't usually mention Xiao Xiao to people. It wasn't because of his pride but because of his pain, a goal that he worked hard for. He only brought it up in front of Xiaolong because he didn't have a choice. He didn't want to start a conflict with the Sky Elixir sect. So he limited the conflict to House Kong. With Xiao Xiao around, he believed that Kong Mingming wouldn't dare do anything rash. As expected, Kong Mingming fell silent after hearing about this. I would have forgotten about this if you didn't mention it. If the Ice Palace were to interfere, I wouldn't be able to teach Linny a lesson. I don't know the relationship between the Sky Elixir sect and the Ice Palace, but they don't seem to be on good terms at first, but lately they seem to be getting along. What do you mean? Xiaolong didn't understand, but he didn't really care about ancient matters. Never mind, they're fine. You can't come and teach Linny a lesson for now. I'll think of something else first. Xiaolong didn't know what to say. Don't worry too much. I'm trying to find a backer for House Kong. Once I get my hands on Silkworm transformation, we'll be strong. I wonder if he's gay or not. Kong Mingming thought evilly. Yes, Xiaoming, House Kong is counting on you. Xiaolong remembered that it was Kong Xiaoming who had helped him establish the hidden house of Yuyu. He suddenly felt that his brother wasn't an idiot. At the very least, he was much better than him in terms of dirty tricks. Linny was puzzled by Xinyan's behavior today. Xinyan yawned, but she didn't fall asleep. She drank her medicine every day, but why wasn't she sleeping today? At noon, Xinyan received a call from her mother, Xiao Qinlin. Xinyan had been wanting to call her mother since morning, but Linny had snatched her back in front of her mother yesterday. She didn't know how to bring it up to her mother, but Linny had snatched her back in front of her mother yesterday. Now that her mother was calling, Xinyan had no choice but to answer. Mom. Xinyan said carefully. Xinyan, are you all right? Xiao Qinlin had mixed feelings and didn't know what to say. I'm fine, Mom, I'm sorry. Xinyan didn't know why she was apologizing. She didn't even know what she was apologizing for. Xinyan, don't worry too much. You have your own path to choose. Your dad and I talked about it last night. And if things don't work out, we'll shut down the company and find a place to hide. The Sky Elixir sect might not be able to find us. Xiao Qinlin didn't say it out loud, but Xinyan understood what her mother was trying to say. Xinyan's tears welled up in an instant. Sadness, helplessness, or joy. Xinyan had mixed feelings at this moment. Her mother finally understood her. But how could Xinyan bear to let them live a life of hiding? The company was her father's blood, sweat, and tears. How could he just shut it down like that? Wang Xinyan didn't want her parents to compromise because of her. Mom, it's okay. I'll talk to Kong Xiaolong and tell him to stop harassing you guys. I'll marry him when I graduate too. Xinyan took a deep breath. She didn't change her mind. After graduation, Linny would either be stronger than the Sky Elixir sect, or he'd leave quietly, or he'd live in seclusion with her parents again. Either way, she couldn't let her parents hide because of her. That wasn't something she wanted to see. All right, think about it. Call me when you've made your decision. I'll support you, Xiao Qinlin said. Okay. Thank you, Mom. Xinyan sighed in relief. In the afternoon, Linny could tell that Xinyan's mood was a lot better than before. After Linny gave her the medicine, she walked into Lin Yi's room to help Lin Yi with his training. That night, Wang Xinyan slept peacefully. The next morning, however, something strange happened that startled Lin Yi. At the same time, Lin Yi started to wonder about something. Chapter 2731. From the current situation, Lin Yi could confirm one thing: Xinyan's lethargy had something to do with him. Xinyan didn't have this lethargy problem in the past, not even when she was in high school, not even when she was in university. It only started when she started living in the villa. He'd be training with Xinyan in his arms every night, and she'd start to get lethargic, and it was getting worse and worse. This continued until the night he went to the tomb, when he didn't sleep with Xinyan. The next day, Xinyan went to school like normal, and it was the same yesterday. Xinyan was back to normal when he didn't train with her in his arms. These messy thoughts connected all the clues together, and Lin Yi came to a conclusion: Xinyan's illness was caused by his training. In other words, the fragrance on Xinyan's body was a necessity for her to survive. And now that he'd sucked it away, Xinyan's body was rapidly weakening. She'd become listless, and had to rely on forced sleep to replenish her energy. Sleep was an important part of the body's self-protection system. A third of a person's life was spent sleeping, and when Xinyan ran out of stamina, she relied on sleep to replenish her energy. He didn't connect all of this together, but today he was sure that this great way of training was actually harming Xinyan. But training wasn't as important as Xinyan's health. Lin Yi would rather level up slowly than let anything happen to Xinyan. And so Linny decided that he wouldn't use Xinyan to train anymore. It was a difficult decision. In the morning, Linny carried Xinyan to school, and he bumped into Xiaolong at the door. He was at school today. Linny, what are you doing? Why is Xinyan unconscious again? What did you do to her? Xiaolong wanted to keep a low profile, but seeing Linny carrying Xinyan, he couldn't keep a low profile anymore. A surge of anger rose in his heart. Isn't it because of you? Linny said coldly as he looked at Xiaolong. What? Xiaolong choked on Linny's words. How is that possible? Don't lie to me, I've already asked around. Xinyan was perfectly fine yesterday, waking up and coming to school. How could she have gotten mad at me? It's relapsed, Linny said. You. Xiaolong was speechless at Linny's words, but he didn't have a reason to retort. He walked back to his seat and sat down. Linny put Xinyan on a chair and took out a book, but he wasn't in the mood to read it. His mind was on Xinyan's problem. Xinyan's body could release a fragrance that was useful for training, and if he absorbed too much of it, Xinyan would become weak. But here came the problem. Didn't Xinyan emit her own fragrance? Was there no loss? Or could it be that the normal loss was within an acceptable range, and his training sped up the loss of Xinyan's fragrance? Linny had never come across a situation like this. He planned to ask Boss Bai later. After class, Linny went to find Boss Bai directly. You're looking for me because of Xinyan's constitution, right? Seeing Linny pulling him aside in a hurry, Boss Bai knew that Linny had a secret to talk about. Let's not talk about constitution for now. Master Bai, I have something more important to talk to you about. Linny said. Xinyan has been sleeping a lot lately, you've seen it, right? Yes, what's wrong? Boss Bai looked at Linny strangely. Isn't it because you and her were too late? Linny sweated at Boss Bai's words. Master Bai, what are you thinking? There's nothing going on between Xinyan and I. I think there's another reason why she's sleeping. Another reason? What do you mean? You mean there's something wrong with her body? Boss Bai was someone who knew medicine after all. He figured out the key point immediately and asked. You could put it that way. It's a long story. Linny told Boss Bai about how he found the special scent on Wang Xinyan's body during the military training, and how he could use it to train. Now that Linny was treating Boss Bai as his other master, he didn't hide anything from him. Oh? Wang Xinyan has this ability? Boss Bai was a little surprised. Could it be because of her special constitution? It has something to do with her constitution? What kind of constitution is it? Linny was dazed and asked quickly. I don't know what her constitution is exactly, but according to my research in the ancient books, this phenomenon should be caused by the test bead that can't recognize her constitution. Boss Bai said. This kind of constitution should be a special constitution beyond the 5 elements. This kind of special case is extremely rare. Oh? Special constitution? After hearing Boss Bai's words, Linny couldn't help but be a bit shocked. There are special constitutions beyond the 5 elements? Yes, there are some special constitutions, but they are relatively rare among cultivators. Most of them exist among spirit beasts, whose attributes are beyond the 5 elements. Boss Bai said, for example, wind, thunder, healing, and so on. These are special existences among spirit beasts, not the cultivators of the 5 elements. I see. Linny nodded, but he did think of the purple lightning beast. It should be a spirit beast of the wind attribute? As for Sun Jingyi, he didn't know if she also had a special constitution beyond the 5 elements. Her mental cultivation method was also very special, so she shouldn't be a cultivator within the 5 elements. So, Wang Xinyan's situation that you mentioned should be the manifestation of this special constitution. I don't know the details, but you gave me a general direction. I will pay attention. Boss Bai said. The most important thing now is to stop using the fragrance on her to train. Let's see how it goes. Yes, that's what I've decided. Linny nodded. Then I'll leave the rest to you, Mr. Bai. It's no trouble. I'm your teacher. It's my duty to answer your questions. Boss Bai laughed. Chapter 2732. He and Linny walked back to the classroom together. This made Yupanhu very jealous. He was envious that Linny could receive personal guidance from Boss Bai. Heavenly Elixir Faction. Kong Ming Ming had just become the 8th elder and refined the bone and marrow washing pill. This was supposed to be a happy event, but something big happened. Xianjun ancestor failed to refine the bone and marrow washing pill. Impossible. How is this possible? With my alchemy skills, how could I fail? Xianjun ancestor furrowed his brows as he looked at the black ashes in the cauldron. He couldn't understand why Kong Xiaoming, who he taught, could concoct the bone and marrow cleansing pill. Why couldn't he do it? However, after the second attempt, Xianjun ancestor gave up. It was still a failure. This meant that it wasn't because of his mistake. It was because he couldn't refine it. Could it be that the bone and marrow washing pill that Kong Mingming refined had no effect on him? Xianjun ancestor had no choice. He could only give Kong Mingming a large amount of true qi replenishing treasures and let him refine another bone and marrow washing pill. As expected by Xianjun ancestor, Kong Xiaoming succeeded. Although the quality wasn't that great, it was a success. This time Xianjun ancestor witnessed the whole process. It was no different from when he refined the pill. However, Kong Mingming succeeded and Xianjun ancestor failed. Something is wrong. There must be something wrong with this pill formula. Although Xianjun ancestor didn't find the problem with the pill formula, after thinking about it, he could only attribute the problem to the pill formula. Otherwise, why was Kong Mingming able to refine the bone and marrow washing pill, but he couldn't? However, he was sure that Kong Xiaoming had indeed refined a marrow and bone cleansing pill. After consuming it, the effect was exactly the same as the one recorded in the ancient books. Xianjun ancestor could feel it. This time, the bone and marrow washing pill wasn't consumed by Xianjun ancestor. Instead, it was sent away carefully. However, Xianjun ancestor didn't give up and called Kong Mingming over. Xiaoming, tell me in detail. Where did this pill formula come from? Xianjun ancestor didn't know the origin of this pill formula. He didn't think much about it before, but now that he failed, he wanted to ask about it. This pill formula is... Kong Mingming didn't dare hide anything. He told Xianjun ancestor about the kidnapping of Guan Xian and Lin Yi extorting the formula. Although it wasn't honorable, it wasn't a secret. Even if Kong Mingming didn't say it, Xian ancestor could get the answer from Skydan ancestor. What? Lin Yi gave you this pill formula? Xianjun ancestor's eyes widened. He couldn't believe it. The conflict between Xianjun ancestor and Lin Yi a few days ago couldn't be hidden from Xianjun ancestor. Xianjun ancestor was quite dissatisfied with what Little 1 and Little 11 did, but fortunately, Boss Bai and his disciple Lin Yi were fine. Even Han Jingjing returned to the classroom alive and well. This made Xianjun ancestor sigh in relief. Yes, could it be that this pill formula is fake? Kong Mingming more or less guessed the truth from Xianjun ancestor's tone and what happened before. I can't say it's fake, but there should be a problem. Xianjun ancestor said. Lin Yi is big is Boss Bai's disciple. Then it's very likely that this pill formula was given to him by Boss Bai, or rather Boss Bai changed it and gave it to him. Although this pill formula can be used to refine the bone and marrow cleansing pill, after taking it, you can't refine other bone and marrow cleansing pills. Do you understand what I mean? Xianjun ancestor didn't know that Lin Yi only knew Boss Bai when he was in university, so he thought that Lin Yi knew Boss Bai a long time ago. Naturally, he attributed the source of the pill formula to Boss Bai. I understand. So you failed and only I can refine it? Although Kong Mingming was surprised, he was overjoyed. What did it mean to be a rare commodity? If he was the only one who could refine the marrow and bone remodeling Dan, then his status in the Heavenly Elixir School would rise. At that time, whoever needed this Dan could only beg him to refine it. In this way, he would become a very important person. You can say that. Xianjun ancestor nodded. So, I will give you a mission. Since you know Lin Yi, when you have time, go back and visit him. Tell him the flaws of this pill formula, and then try to exchange for the real pill formula. You can use other good things to exchange for it. If you really can't get it, then contact me. Xianjun ancestor's way of doing things was completely different from Xianjun ancestor's. Xianjun ancestor's first thought was to rob, but Xianjun ancestor thought of equivalent exchange. If he couldn't get it back, he was prepared to put down his pride and personally call Boss Bai to ask for the pill formula. Of course, this was something he would only do if he really couldn't do it. He wasn't as thick-skinned as Xianjun ancestor, so this was his last resort. As for why he needed the pill formula for the bone and marrow cleansing pill, It was because this pill formula was too important. Not only was it effective for the inheritors of the ethereal attribute, it was also very useful for ordinary cultivators. This thing was much stronger than the foundation building pill. The foundation building pill was actually a branch of the bone and marrow cleansing pill. It was also used to refine one's physique, but it wasn't as powerful as the bone and marrow cleansing pill. Therefore, as long as a cultivator took the bone and marrow cleansing pill, they could improve their physique and speed up their cultivation. This was a really good thing. If an ordinary person ate it, it could prolong their lifespan. If a cultivator ate it, it could strengthen their physique. If this thing was refined, it would definitely be in short supply in the cultivator's market square. The reason why ancestor Xianzhan wanted to refine it and sell it was because, although the 5-element sect seemed to be powerful, they were short on cultivation resources. However, it was no wonder. Any sect that had been passed down for thousands of years would run out of resources if they didn't replenish it. Xianzhan ancestor was afraid that the 5-element sect wouldn't be able to last until the day the heavenly island opened, so he had to start making some preparations. Chapter 27:33. Plus, in the ancient sects there weren't many rich people. He had to continue selling the pills to the hidden level to get more money. As for the hidden level, other than the qi gathering pill, the only other pill that was needed was the bone and marrow cleansing pill. Next, Patriarch Xianzhan planned to refine a few qi gathering pills and bone and marrow cleansing pills to auction at the cultivator's trade fair. Of course, at that time he wouldn't be able to concoct the qi gathering pill and the bone cleansing pill like he was doing now. He would have to rest for half a year before concocting another one. Otherwise, if he used a heavenly treasure to replenish his zhan qi, the value of the heavenly treasure would far exceed the value of a rank 3 pill. Unless it was absolutely necessary like now, Xianzhan Patriarch wouldn't do something like this. Will he agree to it if I go and trade with him? Kong Mingming was very happy and excited to be able to go to Donghai City to find Zhaolong. Plus, the mission that Xianzhan gave him was something that the Sky Elixir sect could only dream of. If he completed it, his position in the sect would be solidified. If he could get recognized by the Xianzhan ancestor and be accepted as a disciple, then he would have a meteoric rise. Kong Mingming could tell that the Xianzhan ancestor's position in the sect was even higher than Tiandian Ran. He didn't know who he was, but it would be a great honor to be a disciple of such a person. However, Kong Mingming was a bit worried. He had a grudge with Lin Yi. Putting his brother Zhaolong aside, he had harmed Xiaofan and kidnapped Guan Exen. These two things made Lin Yi feel bad about him. If it wasn't for Rite 13, he would have been killed by Lin Yi. Would he be able to get anything good out of this? Although he wouldn't be killed by Lin Yi now that he was a member of the Sky Elixir sect, it was very possible that he would get beaten up by Lin Yi if the negotiations broke down. Didn't Zhaolong get beaten up too? Let's see what you have to trade with him, Xianzhan ancestor said. Ancestor Xianzhan said, I will discuss the specifics with heaven and earth, then you can prepare. Listen to my orders at all times. Yes. Kong Mingming had no choice. He could only reply. The reason why Patriarch Xianzhan didn't use Patriarch Xuanzhan's people to find people from the Heavenly Elixir sect was that he didn't want the disciples of the 5 Elements sect to have conflicts with Boss Bai and Lin Yi again. They were all from the same sect, so why did they have to make things so bad? No matter what, let's ask him what he wants first. We'll try our best to satisfy them. If we can't, we'll find a way to replace them with something else. Ancestor Xianzhan said. He was a person who knew how to repay kindness. Lin Yi's pill formula was crucial to his future plan. Moreover, he could continue to refine pills and medicine to sell, so Xianzhan felt that it was only natural to exchange items. This was completely different from Patriarch Xuanzhan's idea. However, Kong Mingming was a little unhappy. He was more inclined to the Heavenly Elixir sect sending a few experts to rob Lin Yi. In this way, he could avenge his personal grievances and teach Lin Yi a lesson, or even kill Lin Yi. It could all be blamed on the Heavenly Elixir sect, but Patriarch Xianzhan didn't have such plans. Patriarch Xianzhan, I know that Lin Yi is stubborn. If you exchange things with him, he will definitely ask for an exorbitant price. To deal with people like him, you should use force. Kong Mingming hesitated for a moment and said, otherwise, this task will be very difficult to complete. Use force? Patriarch Xianzhan frowned. What was the difference between this and Patriarch Xuanzhen's method? Moreover, Patriarch Xuanzhen wouldn't gain anything by using force. Why were these cultivators so impetuous now? Why didn't they follow the rules? Yes, directly send 2 experts with the strength of the peak late stage of heaven stage to ask for the pill formula from Lin Yi. If he doesn't give it, then kill him. Let's see if he gives it or not. Kong Mingming said. Patriarch Xianzhen was a little speechless. In his heart, he was disappointed with Kong Mingming. Originally, seeing that Kong Mingming had worked hard to refine pills under his guidance, Patriarch Xianzhen had a good impression of Kong Mingming. But now he felt that this child was vicious. Patriarch Xianzhen would definitely like him as a disciple, but he didn't like this kind of disciple, so he just said lightly, "No need, just do as I say. If you do well, I will introduce you to my junior brother, and let him accept you as a disciple in name. Your position will definitely be higher than being the 8th elder here." To let Kong Mingming do things, he naturally had to promise some benefits. Otherwise, he wouldn't do it wholeheartedly. So, he gave Kong Mingming to Xianzhen as a disciple in name. Last time, Patriarch Xianzhen didn't say anything about the matter between Little 1 and Little 11, but he already had some complaints about junior brother Xuanzhen's actions. Patriarch Xianzhen clearly knew about the relationship between Lin Yi and Patriarch Xianzhen, but he hid it from Lin Yi. After that, he still thought that Patriarch Xianzhen was in the dark. Did he really think that Patriarch Xianzhen didn't have any information channels? At least, in the Heavenly Elixir sect, Patriarch Xianzhen's words had more weight than Patriarch Xuanzhen's. There was no other reason. This was a sect that refined pills. They were naturally close to a high-level alchemist like Patriarch Xianzhen. However, from this matter, Patriarch Xianzhen had a trace of doubt about what happened in the past. He could be considered to have seen through Xuanzhen's nature. Could it be that what happened in the past was related to him? Patriarch Xianzhen's cultivation deviation, was it? Thinking of this, Patriarch Xianzhen didn't dare to imagine. Fellow disciples of the same sect actually killed each other for the position of sect leader? Patriarch Xianzhen was ambitious, but it was because his ambition was too big that his master didn't pass the position of sect leader to him. Patriarch Xuanzhen's ambition was very likely to become his fatal weakness. Boss Bai was calm, amiable, and had great aspirations in his heart. This kind of person was the kind of person that a sect leader should have. Xianzhen was only suitable to be a thug and a pioneer. Patriarch Xianzhen was the one with the least personality. He had no ambition and no aspirations. He only focused on alchemy and was not interested in anything else. This kind of person was also the kind of person that Patriarch Xianzhen liked to keep. He didn't have any competitive relationship with him, and could even become his helper. During this period of time, whenever Patriarch Xianzhen thought about these things, he would feel very depressed and helpless. He didn't dare to disobey the orders of the sect and went all out to prepare for the plan to return to Heavenly Island. However, he also hoped that Boss Bai could return to preside over the overall situation and lead the 5 Elements sect to Heavenly Island. Chapter 2734. However, in the 5 Elements sect, almost everyone was Xianzhen ancestors' people and disciples. It was very difficult for Xuanzhen ancestor to do anything. Shaking his head, Xuanzhen ancestor could only stop thinking about these things. There were some things that he couldn't change. He could only endure in silence. Lin Yi stopped using Wang Xinyan's fragrance to cultivate. This made Wang Xinyan confused. She looked at Lin Yi, who was focused in class, and asked with a strange expression, Why aren't you cultivating?" "Oh, isn't it almost the final exam?" "I'm studying," Lin Yi said casually. "Studying? Aren't you specially forgiven by Teacher Bai? You can get credits without taking the final exam?" Wang Xinyan blinked. She was surprised by Lin Yi's answer. "Haha, that's what I said. But I still have to take the exam." Lin Yi smiled. "But you don't have to study so hard." Wang Xinyan bit her lips and said, "How about you cultivate? I'll take off my coat." "Ah." Lin Yi was stunned and looked at Wang Xinyan. "I just want you to cultivate, nothing else." Wang Xinyan really didn't mean anything else. She wanted Lin Yi to cultivate as soon as possible and have the strength to fight against the Heavenly Elixir sect. That way, she wouldn't have to live in fear every day. So she wanted to help Lin Yi improve as much as possible. Originally, Lin Yi didn't want to say it, But looking at Wang Xinyan's expression, he knew that if he didn't explain clearly, she would get to the bottom of it. Lin Yi had no choice but to explain. Xinyan, it's not that I don't want to cultivate, but your body seems to have a problem because of my cultivation. My body? What's wrong? Wang Xinyan was stunned. She didn't understand what Lin Yi meant. Haven't you been lethargic recently? I suspect that it's because I've absorbed your fragrance. Lin Yi said. What? My scent? Xinyan looked at Lin Yi, a little taken aback. But Lin Yi reminded her. He seemed to have thought of something. On nights when you're not around, I can get up normally the next morning. Is that right? Yes, that's it. Lin Yi nodded. Although I'm not very sure, it should be close to the mark. So, I stopped cultivating to prevent the problem with your body from becoming more serious. Ah, that's. Then how are you going to train? Xinyan said worriedly. In her plan, Lin Yi could cultivate quickly with the help of her fragrance during his college years. By the time he graduated, he should be able to compete with the Heavenly Elixir sect. Lin Yi wouldn't be able to use her to train, and that meant that his training speed would slow down. Xinyan was a little sad about that. It's okay. Didn't I cultivate when you weren't around? Lin Yi shrugged nonchalantly and said, Plus, I've been training for so long, I've already gotten quite a lot. I'll think of other ways to train in the future. Ah, Xinyan sighed. He knew that it was related to his body, and he couldn't train anymore. So she said, Then can you think of a way to cure my body as soon as possible? Can I continue to cultivate like that? I can't say for now. Although I've been giving you medicine every day, the effect isn't very obvious. Your body seems to be getting weaker day by day. Maybe you can't feel it, but it's a big cycle change. Lin Yi said. So, I can only wait until I stop cultivating and see if you can slowly recover. I see. Okay. I really hope I can get better soon. Xinyan became a little bolder with her mother's support yesterday. When that time comes, I can help you cultivate. Ah, cultivate after recovering? Lin Yi was shocked. Won't there be a problem again? It's fine. I'll stop when there's a problem. I'll continue when I'm better, Xinyan said. Oh. Xinyan's words sounded like a joke, a little mischievous, but to Lin Yi, he couldn't help but feel touched. For a girl to make such a sacrifice for you, her feelings didn't need to be expressed. No matter how stupid Lin Yi was, he could understand Xinyan's feelings. But what Lin Yi didn't understand was that if Xinyan liked him, why didn't she accept him? Was it because she was worried about Kong Xiaolong? But Lin Yi could understand Xinyan's worries. With the strength he had shown so far, he couldn't fight against the Sky Elixir sect. Even when Lin Yi brought up Xiao Xiao's identity the other day, he had no other choice. Xiaolong brought up the ancient background, but Lin Yi didn't. Otherwise, Lin Yi wouldn't have brought it up. Lin Yi could fight above his level, but he was only an Earth class late phase. With that kind of strength, it was impossible to fight against the Sky Elixir sect. After thinking about it, Lin Yi didn't force Xinyan. He didn't want to cause her too much trouble. One day, when he stepped on the Sky Elixir sect, everything would be fine. Thank you. There were so many things he wanted to say. But in the end, he could only say 2 words. He didn't know how to express his feelings. It's nothing. Xinyan shook her head. Why would there be a problem with my body? How troublesome. Don't worry, I'll think of something for you. Lin Yi said. Yeah. Xinyan said with a heavy nod. She trusted Lin Yi a lot. But in the next few days, Xinyan's condition got worse and worse. Lin Yi brewed the medicine for Xinyan every day. He'd even stopped practicing. Xinyan woke up normally to go to school, but it was inevitable that she'd doze off at school. What worried Lin Yi the most was that Xinyan's afternoon nap became a nap every time between classes. She even had to fight to keep her eyes open during class. If she wasn't careful, she'd fall asleep. Xinyan's constant drowsiness worried both Lin Yi and Xiaolong. Xiaolong couldn't hold it in anymore, seeing how Xinyan kept falling asleep in class for no reason. He didn't even have the chance to get close to Xinyan because other than during class, Xinyan was sleeping all the time. It was impossible for him to get close to her even if he wanted to. She was even sleeping during class. What chance did he have? Chapter 27:35. What did you do to her last night? I don't think we should let her stay in the dorms at school. Xiaolong knew from the hospital that Xinyan was still a virgin. But Xinyan was a girl living in Lin Yi's villa with Meng Yao and Yushu. Xiaolong didn't feel comfortable letting her stay in the school dorms, so he decided to use this opportunity as an excuse to have Xinyan move back to the school dorms. There's something wrong with her body. Lin Yi didn't plan on hiding it from Xiaolong. He just needed to hide the fact that she was training. Her body's getting weaker and weaker. What else can I do to her? I would have done it a long time ago if I wanted to. You're hurting her by letting her stay in the dorms. What? There's something wrong with her body? Xiaolong was shocked. What did you say? Are you serious? Why is her body getting weaker and weaker? Wasn't she fine before? Why did she get weaker after meeting you? If Xiaolong had said this at any other time, Lin Yi would have sent him flying with a kick. But because of his guilt towards Xinyan, Xiaolong was right. Xinyan only became weaker after meeting him, and that made Lin Yi feel very guilty. But he couldn't back down in front of Xiaolong. He looked at him and said faintly, Xinyan's body has been weak since she was young. You're her fiancé, don't you know that? I don't think you should be her fiancé anymore. You don't know her as well as I do. Fuck. I want to know her too. You've been hogging the seat beside Xinyan all day, what can I do? Xiaolong said, a little annoyed. Then, how's her situation now? Not too well. I've given her the medicine, but the effects aren't that obvious, and it's getting worse and worse. Lin Yi had been thinking about Xinyan's problem for the past couple of days. He couldn't eat or drink, and this was all because of him. If something were to happen to Xinyan, then he'd be the one to blame for it. You made the medicine? Can it be used? It can't kill someone, can it? Xiaolong was furious at Lin Yi's words. She's sick. You should be sending her to the hospital. What if you treat her on your own and make her sick? Are you really stupid or just pretending to be stupid? Cultivators go to the hospital? Besides, she's not sick at all. She's just weak. It should be a problem with her body. It's useless to go to the hospital. Lin Yi said. If you have the ability, don't talk to me about this nonsense. You can also think of a way. Lin Yi was at his wit's end, so Lin Yi didn't reject Xiaolong's visit. It'd be great if he could come up with a good idea. As the saying goes, brainstorming is the best. Where's the prescription you gave her? Let me see, I need to get Professor Bai to appraise it. Maybe it's because of your stupid medicine. Xiaolong extended his hand, asking for the prescription from Lin Yi. Do you think I'm Dr. Kang's medical company that specializes in scamming people? Lin Yi curled his lips. You. Xiaolong's face turned red at Lin Yi's words, but he couldn't refute it. After all, House Kong had done such things before. He could only huff. You're not willing to give it to me. Are you feeling guilty? Don't talk about the past. Oh, I'll give it to you. Lin Yi took a piece of paper and wrote down the prescription for Xinyan. It wasn't a secret at all. Xiaolong didn't expect Lin Yi to write down the prescription so quickly. He was a little surprised, but he still took the prescription and went to find Boss Bai. The reason why Lin Yi gave it so quickly was because he wanted Xiaolong to discuss with the Hidden House Yu or even the Sky Elixir sect, to see if they could improve the prescription. For Xinyan, Lin Yi didn't care about these small details. After a while, Boss Bai came. Lin Yi had talked to Boss Bai about Xinyan, and Boss Bai had been studying Xinyan's problem. He knew what was going on the moment Xiaolong saw him. He explained to Xiaolong, there's no problem with this prescription. Lin Yi has shown it to me these few days, but the effect isn't great. It's not that the prescription isn't good, but that these herbs are just too common. These herbs should be fine for normal diseases, but Xinyan's body has been weak since she was young. These herbs can't replenish the energy she loses every day, and that's why her body is getting weaker and weaker. Then why was she fine before? Why did she become like this after going to Lin Yi's house? Xiaolong wasn't an idiot. Boss Bai smiled bitterly, thinking that Xiaolong wasn't an idiot after all. He had discussed with Lin Yi a long time ago. Xinyan's body was weak when she was young, and her father brought her everywhere to seek treatment. They met a traveling master who gave her father some herbs, including a rare elixir. That's why Xinyan has been fine all these years. But now, it seems that the effects of those herbs and elixirs have worn off, and that's why Xinyan's problem has appeared. So that's how it is. Xiaolong didn't think that Boss Bai would lie to him. After all, he didn't need to ask Wang Shubin. He could ask Xiao Ji and Xiao Ben. and he would be able to verify it later. What kind of herbs and elixirs did that traveling master give you? Is there a prescription? I'm not sure about that. According to Wang Xinyan herself, there's no such thing. But I've been looking through some ancient books these days, and I've come up with a potion that should be more useful than Lin Yi's. Bai Bo said as he took out a prescription. Xiaolong quickly took it and looked at Lin Yi with disdain. See, I told you that your prescription isn't good. Master Bai is indeed Master Bai. Your student is definitely not good enough. Lin Yi smiled non-committally. He wasn't in the mood to argue with Xiaolong. White Boss, on the other hand, smiled. Lin Yi's recipe is already very good. My recipe is a little stronger, but it uses some of the rarer ingredients. Normal pharmacies don't even sell them. Xiaolong, isn't your brother an elder of the Sky Elixir sect? Let's ask him if he has it. Normal people didn't know that Kong Mingming had become the 8th elder of the Sky Elixir sect, but it had spread in the ancient and hidden circles. Boss Bai, as the former head of the 5 Elements sect, naturally received the news as well. Chapter 2736. Boss Bai definitely wouldn't pay for the herbs, but Wang Xinyan was his fiancée after all, and he could use this as an excuse to get to know her better. Who knows, maybe he could even move Wang Xinyan's heart. Plus, this was a chance for him to show off his brother's strength. He had no reason to refuse. Xinyan woke up at that moment, and Xiaolong patted his chest as if he was on steroids. Don't worry, Xinyan is my fiancé. No matter how expensive or difficult these herbs are, my brother will be able to find them for me. Right, Xinyan, why don't we talk to Uncle Wang and Aunt Xiao about this? We can ask them about what happened back then. Let's see if they can find that wandering master they met back then, and see if they can get the recipe and the name of that herb. Lin Yi said to Xinyan after Xiaolong left. Aye. Xinyan's face was a little gloomy. She'd learned about her condition these days, and Lin Yi's medicine couldn't help her get better. Even when Lin Yi stopped practicing, she was still sleeping more and more every day. Was this a sign that she was going to die? But Xinyan didn't blame Lin Yi. She was helping him out of her own free will. She just didn't want to die like this. She didn't want her family, she didn't want Lin Yi to die, and she didn't want her friends to die. But there was one good thing about dying. The conflict between Lin Yi and the Sky Elixir sect would no longer exist. Xinyan, Mr. Bai, and I don't know what to do right now. You don't have to hide it anymore. Lin Yi said helplessly. All right. I'll tell my mom and dad if Professor Bai's medicine doesn't work. Xinyan nodded. She was a weak girl, and she didn't like people worrying about her own stuff. After Xiaolong left, he gave Xiao Ben a call and confirmed that Xinyan was indeed sickly and weak when she was young. There was one time when Xinyan's father, Wang Xiuben, went to the Miaozhong area to collect herbs, and he met a wandering master who gave him some medicine and a spiritual herb. Xinyan's body got better after taking it. Xiaolong didn't suspect Lin Yi anymore after hearing this news. He called his brother Xiaoming directly. Bro. Xiaoming wanted to give Xiaolong a call as well, telling him that he was planning on going to Donghai for a mission in exchange for Lin Yi's recipe, but what troubled him was that he didn't know how to approach Lin Yi. He was afraid that Lin Yi wouldn't just ignore him but would beat him up instead. Xiaoming, can you answer the phone now? Xiaolong asked. Although Kong Mingming was his brother, Kong Ming's status was different now. He had to be careful. Brother, I was just about to call you. I might need to go back to Donghai in the next few days, Kong Mingming said. What? You're going back to Donghai? That's great, I was just about to ask you to come back. I'm calling you because there's something I need your help with. Xiaolong said. Your sister-in-law, Wang Xinyan, has some problems with her health. Problems with her body? What problems? Kong Mingming paused. It's just that her body has been weak since she was young, and it's acting up again recently. She's always sleeping. Xiaolong told Xiaoming about Xinyan's situation. Xiaoming, you have to help your bro this time. I've already asked for these ingredients, you have to get them. That's easy. Kong Mingming listened to what Xiaolong said. The herbs might be valuable in the common world, but they weren't that rare in the Sky Elixir sect. With Kong Ming's status, it was natural that he could get some of them. Of course, it was also included in the elder's monthly allowance. But Kong Xiaoming had an advantage, and that was that he was going to carry out Xianzhan's mission. He could use the ingredients that Xinyan needed as a stepping stone to get in touch with Lin Yi, so the cost would naturally be on the Sky Elixir sect and Xianzhan's shoulders. All right, I'll leave this to you, brother. Xiaolong let out a breath of relief when he heard Kong Mingming's response. He finally had face in front of Lin Yi. In fact, Xiaolong had secretly analyzed the difference between him and Lin Yi. Didn't Lin Yi always come up with new and interesting things to make girls happy? He would do that to Xinyan in the future, and it wouldn't be a problem for him to win her over. Of course, this was his own analysis. The relationship between Lin Yi and Xinyan wasn't as simple as just pleasing her anymore. The fate between the two was truly miraculous. They'd been sitting together since they first met, and they were still sitting together now. I'll let you know the exact time when I have news. On the other side, a disciple came to report to Kong Mingming, asking him to go to the silkworm transformation room. Kong Mingming was overjoyed and quickly ended the call. Kong Mingming had been worrying about the lack of a chance to get close to the silkworm transformation. Now that there was a chance, how could he not be excited? He ran to the gate of the Heavenly Silkworm Transformation's courtyard and knocked on the door carefully. It's Elder Kong. The young master is waiting for you. Come with me. The person who opened the door was still the silkworm transformation maid from before, but this time her attitude towards Kong Mingming was much better. Thank you. Kong Mingming's goal was to become a maid, to be able to stay by the silkworm transformation side all the time. This maid was someone he'd have to befriend in the future, and Kong Mingming had to be polite to her. The maid was a bit surprised. The position of an elder of the Sky Elixir sect wasn't as high as the silkworm transformation, but she was still a maid. She had to maintain some dignity, and other people would at most say and without saying thank you. You're welcome. The maid's impression of Kong Mingming improved quite a bit, and a smile flashed in her eyes. May I know your name, beautiful lady? Kong Mingming was overjoyed to see that he'd managed to gain the favor of the maid. The maid wasn't very pretty, but Kong Mingming was a master at picking up girls. He'd turned the maid into a beautiful lady in no time. Chapter 2737. In the past few months, Kong Mingming had eaten a lot of natural treasures. Coupled with his diligent cultivation, he had changed from his previous weak appearance, which had been hollowed out by wine and women. He was really an elegant young man. No wonder Little Peach was attracted to him. Puff. Little Peach? Kong Mingming wanted to complain. Why are all maids called Little Peach? In the TV series and novels he had seen, there were many Little Peaches. However, for his dream and goal, Kong Mingming resolutely said with fake surprise, "Good name. You're like your name. Your face and peach blossoms reflect each other. This artistic conception is really amazing." Ah, Elder Kong, you are so knowledgeable. You can even recite poems. Little Peach said shyly in surprise. Of course. Haha, my hand is so wet. Kong Mingming laughed and sighed in his heart. This Little Peach is really not good looking. But it's also a good thing. If she is good looking, will she leave the heavenly silkworm transformation to me? Then I won't have a chance. In the blink of an eye, Kong Mingming already had a plan. He would get Little Peach first, and then get the heavenly silkworm transformation. He would have a threesome with both men and women. At that time, he might be able to marry both the master and the servant. That would be awesome. Anyway, the Heavenly Elixir sect was an ancient sect, so it should not be a big deal to be gay. Moreover, Kong Mingming was confident in his appearance. During this period of time, he had been taking tonics and cultivating, and he had already been reborn. He believed that as long as he guided the heavenly silkworm transformation to change its sexual orientation, it should still have a chance to be attractive to both men and women. Oh, Elder Kong, I am talking to you. Don't let the young master wait. Little Peach said quickly. Then she led Kong Mingming through a long corridor in the courtyard and came to the door of a house. Little Peach knocked on the door, and the voice of the heavenly silkworm transformation came from inside. Please come in. Kong Mingming carefully followed Little Peach into the room of the heavenly silkworm transformation. He did not dare to breathe loudly. He was like a different person from when he teased Little Peach. Elder Kong, you're here. Have a seat. Silkworm pointed at a cushion in front of her meditating area. Little Peach, go pour some tea for Xiaolong. Yes, young sect master. Little Peach became respectful and cautious before the heavenly silkworm transformation. At this time, Kong Mingming hurriedly said, "Young master, don't bother, I'm not thirsty. You can call me Xiaoming, I don't deserve to be called Elder Kong." Little Ming? Silkworm Transformation was stunned, but he still nodded and said, "Okay, then I'll call you Little Ming." Kong Mingming was overjoyed. Only then did he dare to raise his head and say, "Young lord, why are you looking for me?" However, when Kong Mingming raised his head, he was stunned. What a handsome man! He was even more beautiful than the silkworm transformation that she had seen in the Hidden Right family. Was it because he had eaten the bone and marrow cleansing pill that she had refined? If that was the case, it was normal for him to become even more beautiful. At this moment, Kong Mingming had a ridiculous thought, and that was to get intimate with him. It turned out that when people saw a man who was more beautiful than a beautiful woman, they would also change their sexual orientation. At least, this was what happened to Kong Mingming. "Oh, it's like this. Xianzhen Grandmaster told you, right? This time when you go to East Ocean City, you have to find a way to exchange for the real recipe of the bone and marrow cleansing pill. The Heavenly Elixir sect will be your backup. You and that Linny will come and study it. If you need anything, you can ask me directly," Silkworm Transformation said. "But this time you must complete the task. Xianzhen Grand Master places great importance on this matter." "Yes, young lord, don't worry. I will do my best to complete the task." Kong Mingming patted his chest and promised. "Okay, you can leave now." Silkworm Transformation waved her hand. "Young lord, are you tired? Do you want me to give you a massage? When I was learning how to make elixirs, I learned a set of massage techniques from Xianzhen Grandmaster. Young lord, do you want to try it? Can I serve you, Xiaoming?" Kong Mingming said flatteringly. He had indeed learned a set of massage techniques. In the beginning, he had wanted to rely on Silkworm Transformation with this idea. Massage? Service? Silkworm Transformation's expression changed slightly. He frowned and said, "No need. I appreciate your kindness. You can leave now. Little Peach, see the guest out. Elder Kong, this way please." Little Peach gestured for Elder Kong to enter. Kong Mingming wasn't discouraged. After all, it was the first time that he had surrendered to Silkworm Transformation, and it was normal that Silkworm Transformation didn't accept him. He believed that with his hard work, he would be able to make Silkworm Transformation like him. Even if they couldn't become friends, it was fine to be his lackey. "Little Peach, does the young master have any hobbies?" Kong Xiaoming pretended to be nonchalant as he walked out of the courtyard. "Huh, what are you doing?" Little Peach looked at Kong Xiaoming cautiously. "You aren't planning something on the young master, are you?" Why would I? Young lord is handsome. Although I'm not as handsome as him, I'm not gay. In my heart, Little Peach is prettier." Kong Mingming quickly explained. "Is that so?" Little Peach heard Kong Mingming's words and thought that was indeed the case. Kong Mingming's naked confession made Little Peach's heart beat faster. "Kong, Elder Kong, Little Peach isn't as pretty as young lord." "Haha, that's different. He's a handsome guy and you're a beauty." "Oh right, don't call me Elder Kong. It's so distant. How about you call me Brother Xiaoming from now on?" Kong Mingming said. Okay, Brother Xiaoming," Little Peach said shyly. It was no wonder that Little Peach was moved. Other than Sky Silkworm Shapeshifter, there was no other handsome guy that came into contact with her. And with Sky Silkworm Shapeshifter's background, Little Peach had already given up on the idea. With Kong Mingming appearing out of nowhere, it was only natural for her to be moved. She wasn't a beauty and she knew that. Although she suspected that Kong Mingming was lying to her, she was still fooled by Kong Mingming's sweet words. She wasn't young anymore, but she didn't have much experience in the world. Naturally, she was fooled by Kong Mingming. Kong Mingming's sweet words were known as the killer of innocent girls. Didn't Fan fall for it too? "Hey Little Peach, I won't hide it from you. Since I want to pursue you, then I'll be honest with you." Kong Mingming sighed and pretended to be troubled. "Ah." Little Peach's heart skipped a beat when Xiaolong said, "Want to pursue you?" She was lost for a moment. Xiaoming bro. Chapter 2738. Think about it, the young master is a man. What can I covet from him? Isn't it because I want him to value me and make a name for myself? In the Heavenly Elixir sect, although I'm an elder, I'm the lowest ranked elder and I have no foundation. It's difficult for me to achieve something big. That's why you approached me and fawned over me, right? Little Peach was not stupid. After listening to Kong Mingming's words, she asked warily, "You don't really like me. You're doing this because you want to get information about the young master from me, right?" "Little Peach, you're thinking too much." Kong Mingming waved his hand and said, "I admit that I was exaggerating when I said you were beautiful, but I like you just like that. The most important thing is that you and I are a good match. You're the young master's maid and I'm an elder. In the Heavenly Elixir sect, you're the only one who can be my wife of the right age. Even if the servants are prettier than you, can I marry them? How shameful would that be? I'm an elder. Moreover, my taste is a little special. When I was young, I saw too many beautiful women and was a little tired. When I saw Little Peach, my eyes suddenly lit up. It's as if you're the one for me." "Brother Xiaoming, is what you said true?" Little Peach's eyes sparkled. Of course, Kong Xiaoming told a bunch of bullshit lies, but he managed to capture Little Peach's heart. These half-truths and half-lies were the most lethal. He wasn't afraid that Little Peach would think too much when she went back because Kong Xiaoming had already confessed his purpose. "Brother Xiaoming, don't worry and carry out your mission. I'll help you put in a good word for the Heavenly Elixir sect. As for what the young master likes, I'll tell you when you come back," Little Peach said. "Okay, Little Peach, you helping me is also helping yourself. If the young master has a good impression of me, then I'll go ask for your hand in marriage. Otherwise, the young master wouldn't have betrothed you to me," Kong Xiaoming said. Little Peach's cheeks were flushed red. "Phew." Xiaoming let out a long sigh of relief as he watched Peach leave. His eyes were filled with excitement. He'd succeeded. The first step was a success. It was too smooth. He was a master at picking up girls. The next morning, Kong Mingming brought the ingredients Xiaolong needed to Donghai City. Xiaolong was overjoyed when he heard that Kong Mingming was leaving. He waited for Xinyan to wake up and eat lunch. Xiaolong sat in front of Xinyan and Lin Yi. "Xinyan, don't worry, I've already asked my younger brother, the 8th elder of the Heavenly Elixir sect, to come here. After he arrives, I believe that the problem with your body will definitely be solved. He is a Heaven Stage Master, a 3rd-grade alchemist, much stronger than some Earth Stage Masters who are not even alchemists yet. Xinyan, don't worry. I've sent my brother, the 8th elder of the Heavenly Elixir Master. I'm sure he'll be able to solve your problem. He's a Sky Class, a 3rd-level refiner. He's much stronger than some Earth-class refiners." Xiaolong looked at Lin Yi provokingly. He'd been holding it in for too long, and he finally had a chance to let it all out. Lin Yi didn't comment on Xiaolong's words. "Let's talk about it when it's done." Xiaolong had placed all his hopes on Kong Xiaoming, or more accurately, the Sky Elixir sect. When the time came, Xiaolong would use Xinyan's illness as a condition to negotiate with the Sky Elixir sect in exchange for Lin Yi's recipe. With the Sky Elixir sect as his backing, Xinyan's illness would be cured. This was why Xiaolong dared to talk big like this. "Oh." Lin Yi didn't want to argue before Kong Mingming came. He'd hold it in for Xinyan's sake, but if Kong Mingming couldn't cure Xinyan's illness, there was no need for him to hold back. "Oh." Lin Yi didn't want to argue before Kong Mingming came. He'd hold it in for Xinyan's sake, but if Kong Mingming couldn't cure Xinyan's illness, then there was no need for him to hold back. Both Xinyan and Lin Yi were expressionless, and Xiaolong felt like he was playing the lute to a cow. He left, depressed, Donghai Engineering University Professor Bai's office. Lin Yi, Xinyan, Xiaolong, and Kong Mingming, who just arrived in Donghai, sat there. Lin Yi hated Kong Mingming a lot, but since Kong Mingming had given Xinyan so many precious herbs, Lin Yi decided to hold it in for now. In actuality, Lin Yi was thinking that he could just ask Xinyan's father, Wang Shubin, to buy these ingredients. If even a high-grade ingredient like the sky barrier breaking fruit could be in his hands, then Boss Bai's ingredients shouldn't be a problem. But Xinyan didn't want to tell her parents about her health, and Lin Yi had no choice but to blackmail Xiaolong. Luckily, Lin Yi didn't feel like he owed Kong Mingming anything. In fact, it was Kong Mingming who owed him. "Aha, isn't this Lin Yi? Long time no see, I heard you're an Earth class late phase now? Not bad, you'll catch up to me soon. I'm just a Sky class mid phase." Kong Mingming laughed. "Oh, then you've leveled up pretty fast. How many qi-gathering pills did you eat? Linny asked. Just 3. Kong Ming Ming said faintly. Sky Elixir sect values me quite a lot. I'm working for the young master of the Sky Silkworm sect right now, so I'm his direct subordinate. Linny frowned. Kong Ming Ming was valued by the young master of the Sky Elixir sect? Was it because he knew how to make the bone cleansing pill? That shouldn't be the case. Logically speaking, trash like him should be tossed aside after being used. Why would he value him? Cut the bullshit. Since you're so powerful, why don't you take a look at Xinyan's condition? Your brother said that you can cure her. Linny didn't want to waste time with Kong Ming Ming. Wait. Kong Ming Ming waved his hand. I don't just casually make house calls. There's a condition. What condition? Linny asked patiently. The condition is simple. I can make house calls for Xinyan, but in exchange you have to give something in return. Kong Ming Ming turned to Linny. What a joke. Xinyan is your fiancé, and you're asking me for something in exchange for her treatment? Are you sick? Linny looked at Kong Ming Ming as if he was an idiot. Or are you saying that Xinyan has nothing to do with House Kong anymore? Chapter 2739. But Kong Ming Ming was an expert in shamelessness. He was ready to have sex with Silkworm Chong or lick his shoes for him. That was shameless to the extreme. My brother, of course, has to pay something. I'm asking you now, don't talk about useless stuff. If you want to cure Wang Xinyan, you have to pay something as well. You all have to pay something, and I'm representing the Sky Elixir sect, not House Kong. So you're saying that if I don't pay something, you're not going to cure her? Linny asked. That's right, if you don't pay something, then I'll just leave. If she dies, then so be it, she'll still marry my brother. It doesn't have much to do with me. Kong Ming Ming said. Oh. Linny was a little speechless at Kong Ming Ming's shameless reasoning, but for Wang Xinyan's sake, Linny couldn't just go against him. If I agree to your conditions, you'll definitely be able to cure her, right? Of course, if you agree to my conditions, I'll definitely be able to cure her. Kong Ming Ming said with a pat on his chest. Alright, what's your condition? Linny took a deep breath. He chose to endure it for the sake of Xinyan's condition. If I cure Wang Xinyan, you'll give me the real recipe for the bone cleansing pill. What do you think? Kong Ming Ming asked. The real recipe for the bone cleansing pill? Didn't I give you the real recipe? Linny paused. Could it be that Kong Ming Ming or the Sky Elixir sect had discovered something? That shouldn't be the case. There's something wrong with the recipe you gave me. I've used the bone cleansing pill before, so I can concoct the bone cleansing pill. That's not a problem, but someone who's used the bone cleansing pill can't concoct the bone cleansing pill anymore. What's going on? Didn't you do something to the recipe? Kong Ming Ming asked. Oh. Linny was stunned. He didn't expect that his pill formula would have such a problem. Kong Ming Ming had said that only those who had consumed the marrow and bone cleansing elixir could refine the marrow and bone cleansing elixir. This flaw was indeed set by Linny. However, after Kong Ming Ming refined the elixir, the person who consumed it could not continue refining it. This flaw was not set by Linny. Linny had never set this flaw. The flaw he set up should be the other one. Boss Bai also looked at Linny in surprise. Linny could change the recipe and even set up defects? However, Linny neither admitted nor denied it. He only said indifferently, "Oh, you're talking about this. There are 2 pill formulas and they're slightly different. I gave you one of them. Could it be that there's a problem? I'm not sure about that, but if you can cure Wang Xinyan's problem, I can give you the other one." This recipe wasn't a big deal to Linny. Since he had already given Kong Ming Ming one, he wasn't afraid of giving a second one. As for the flaw Kong Ming Ming mentioned, Linny just needed to find a way to improve it. As for the other flaws, if Kong Ming Ming didn't mention them, then Linny wouldn't help him either. Humph, I think you did it on purpose, didn't you? You don't know? You must know that the one you gave me was the original version, and the one you kept was the improved version. Kong Ming Ming heard Linny's words and immediately believed that Linny had set him up on purpose. Don't worry so much. If you want the pill formula, go cure the disease. Otherwise, there won't be any left, Linny said. Then can you show me the pill formula first? Kong Ming Ming asked tentatively. Are you retarded? If I show you the formula and you don't want to cure the disease, then scram. Where am I going to find you? Linny looked at Kong Mingming with disdain. You have a bad character. I don't believe you. If you want it, go cure it. If you're cured, I'll give it to you. I'll do it in front of your brother. And I can get Professor Bai to be my witness. I'll put the formula in Professor Bai's hands, and if you're cured, I'll ask him to give it to you. You can ask your brother yourself. Kong Mingming turned to look at Xiaolong. Xiaolong hesitated for a moment before nodding. He trusted Boss Bai's character. If Professor Bai is my witness, then I'll be fine. All right, then you go first, Xiaolong said impatiently. Linny said impatiently. If it wasn't for Wang Xinyan, Linny wouldn't even bother talking to Kong Mingming. Linny planned to deal with him after Kong Mingming cured Wang Xinyan. Wang Xinyan was Xiaolong's fiancée, so when Kong Mingming treated her, he behaved himself. He didn't dare to take advantage of her. Plus, he was here on a mission and he didn't want to mess it up. Kong Mingming had learned some basic medical knowledge, but he didn't know the specifics. He only pretended to remember a few of Wang Xinyan's conditions and said, "All right, I need to think alone for a while. Find me a quiet room. You're quite troublesome. If you can't cure her, I'll kick your ass." Under Boss Bai's direction, Linny brought Kong Mingming to a private room. Kong Mingming didn't need to think at all. His half-baked medical skills could only cure common illnesses like flu and typhoid. Wang Xinyan's strange illness wasn't something he could cure at all, so he came to the private room to call Sky Elixir for help. "Hello? Little Peach, it's me, Xiaoming bro." Kong Xiaoming dialed Little Peach's number. "Peach, I can't chat with you right now. Hurry up and help me find the young master. I'm having some trouble with my mission." Okay. Little Peach quickly went to find Silkworm Change and gave him the phone. Kong Mingming first flattered Silkworm Change respectfully, and Silkworm Change frowned as he listened. Finally, he finished the story. "Lil Ming, you're saying that Linny and Boss Bai can't do anything about Wang Xinyan's illness?" Silkworm Change asked. "Yeah, if they could cure her, it wouldn't be my turn," Kong Mingming said. "All right, I understand. Wait for my news." Silkworm Change sighed. It really was a bad start. Lin Yi's conditions were really hard to fulfill. He didn't know that this was a condition that Kong Mingming had proposed on his own. If he knew, he really would have the urge to strangle Kong Mingming to death. Silkworm Change wasn't very good at medicine, so he went to visit the Xianjin ancestor after the call and told him about Kong Mingming. "If even Brother Xiantian can't do anything about it, naturally I can't," the ancestor said with certainty. "In terms of medical skills, Brother Xiantian is much better than me, and he's been immersed in the study of medicine all these years. We really can't do anything about this condition." Chapter 2740. Although alchemists were proficient in medicine and pharmacology, it did not mean that their medical skills were at the peak of perfection. This was because most of their energy was focused on alchemy. Therefore, if one were to say that the person with the highest medical skills in the world was still the generation's divine doctor Lin Dongfang, who became famous more than 10 years ago. Of course, what made Lin Dongfang's name resound throughout the ancient sects was not his title as a genius doctor, but another terrifying legend. That's the only way. Xianjun sighed. "Let's do our best. If it really doesn't work, I'll call Xian Tianshi. I really can't bring myself to do this." "All right, I'll talk to him now." Silkworm nodded. When Kong Xiaoming received the Silkworm Transformation's reply, he was stunned. Even the Xianjin ancestor couldn't do anything? In Kong Mingming's mind, the Xianjin ancestor, who was like a miracle doctor, couldn't do anything? He'd said all those big words. He'd thought that by using Xinyan's illness as a hostage, he'd be able to get the recipe back from Lin Yi without much effort. But who would have thought? Thinking back to what Lin Yi said, that he'd kick him to death if he couldn't cure Xinyan, Kong Mingming was starting to get scared. But no matter how scared he was, he had to continue talking terms with Lin Yi. This was his mission. He couldn't just go back to the Sky Elixir school, could he? Found a way? That's pretty fast. Lin Yi looked at Kong Mingming mockingly. With Lin Yi's Earth-class late phase strength, he could easily listen in on Kong Mingming's phone call. Lin Yi wasn't the type of person who liked to pry into other people's business, but Lin Yi didn't need to be polite with Kong Mingming. Lin Yi didn't know what was said on the other side of the phone, but he knew that Kong Mingming hadn't thought of a way to cure Wang Xinyan from the look on his face. It's like this. I've thought about it. Treating Wang Xinyan is a long and arduous process, and it's a bit unfair to exchange it with you. She's my sister-in-law after all, so I'll take my time to treat her. You don't have to pay any price, Kong Mingming explained. So I've decided to treat you for free. Oh, so you don't want the elixir formula anymore? Linny looked at Kong Mingming teasingly. Yes, but I will use something else to exchange with you, Kong Mingming said with a smile. How about it? Am I all right? You idiot. Linny kicked Kong Mingming, causing him to tumble. Are you kidding me? Do you think I don't know that you can't cure her? I've tolerated you for Wang Xinyan. Kong Mingming was kicked by Linny, but he was a sky class. He didn't have any offensive abilities, but he still had some defensive abilities. He only looked a bit haggard, but didn't cause too much damage. How could you just kick people like that? I didn't say I can't cure her. Kong Mingming felt guilty. He couldn't beat Linny in a fight. He might be a sky class mid-phase, but he didn't have any offensive skills. Getting help from the Sky Elixir sect was also impossible. The Xianzhen ancestor's attitude was clear. He wanted to exchange the elixir formula with Linny, not steal it. Kong Mingming could only grit his teeth and bear with it. He and Linny, who had been tolerating him the whole time, changed positions. Did you think I didn't hear you calling Little Peach? Linny curled his lips. I didn't expect this. Kong Mingming, not bad. You've only been in the Sky Elixir sect for a short while, and you've already hooked up with someone close to the young master? You. Kong Mingming remembered that Linny was a true Earth class late phase. It was easy for him to hear the voices in the room next door. He couldn't be compared to a Sky class mid-phase like him. Fine, you've already kicked me. I can't cure her, okay? Xiaolong's face changed. He wanted to use the fact that Kong Mingming had cured Wang Xinyan to attack Linny a little, and build up an image of House Kong in front of Xinyan. He didn't expect Kong Mingming to be such a coward, even after being kicked by Linny. Xiaolong couldn't tell if Linny was sent by the ancient sect, or if Kong Mingming was sent by the ancient sect. He didn't know that Kong Mingming was in a difficult situation. His mission here was to trade with Linny. If he offended Linny and refused to trade with him, then even if the Sky Elixir sect sent masters to rob him, his position in the sect would plummet due to his incompetence. So in order to gain the trust of Silkworm transformation, he had no choice but to compromise. Kong Mingming's 180-degree change in attitude surprised Linny. Could it be that the recipe in his hands was that important to him? Or was it that important to the Sky Elixir sect? From Linny's point of view, he had already given Kong Mingming a recipe, so it wouldn't hurt to give him a similar one. So he easily agreed to Kong Mingming's request. But now Linny was calculating in his heart. It seemed that he could get something good out of this recipe. Oh, if you can't cure it, then you can leave. Linny didn't mention the recipe on purpose and said directly, Don't. If I can't cure it, then let's discuss other ways to trade with you. What do you think? Kong Mingming's face changed. If you can't cure it, then you still want the recipe? Do you think you can rob me just because you're a Sky Class master? Linny glanced at Kong Mingming and said faintly, Haven't you heard that I can instantly kill Sky Class masters? I could kill a Sky Class early stage when I was at the peak of Earth Class mid-stage. Now that I'm at the late stage, killing a Sky Class mid-stage shouldn't be a problem. Killing a piece of trash like you shouldn't be a problem at all. Don't. Linny, boss Linny, let's talk this out. How would I dare to do that? Didn't I say we could talk this out? We're old friends, don't use force so easily. That's not good, and it's not civilized. Kong Mingming was shocked and quickly said, Plus, I'm the 8th elder of the Sky Elixir sect. If you kill me, there's no benefit. Sky Elixir sect will definitely come looking for you. Oh, isn't that simple? When they come, I'll give them the recipe and they can make the bone cleansing pill themselves. Why would I need you? If you die, then you die. Linny said faintly. Gah. Kong Mingming's face turned pale. After hearing Linny's words, his legs started to tremble. He was really afraid that Linny would kill him. According to what Linny said, if the Sky Elixir sect got Linny's recipe as compensation, then they would definitely not pursue this matter anymore. Then wouldn't he die for nothing? Chapter 2741. However, his words sounded a little weak, making people feel that he wasn't confident enough. Xiaolong felt very humiliated. He might as well not have called Kong Mingming over. This wasn't the 8th elder of the Sky Elixir sect. He wasn't even a follower in front of Lin Yi. When Kong Mingming forced Lin Yi to tell him the recipe, he was feeling pretty good. He thought that he was the main character, but in the blink of an eye, he was back to being a supporting character. He felt so bad that he wanted to turn around and leave. This was too embarrassing. He was just trying to act cool. But Lin Yi scared him to this extent. Haha, Lin Yi smiled. Then tell me, what can you give me in exchange? Me? What do you want? As long as the Sky Elixir sect has it, we can trade with you. Kong Mingming thought about it and said, oh, then I'll give you a price. A 3rd-grade cauldron, a chi gathering pill, and an ice heart pill. Lin Yi didn't ask for too much, but these 3 things were already too much. After all, the Sky Elixir sect's final reward for passing the test was only a 3rd-grade elixir. Lin Yi asked for 2 at once, and the Sky Elixir sect probably wouldn't agree. After all, the person he was trading with wasn't the brainless Kong Mingming, but the Sky Elixir sect. Lin Yi could feel that the young master of the Sky Elixir sect was a wise man. He could ask for something, but if it was too much, the young master wouldn't agree. The reason why they chose to trade with him was probably because they didn't want to rob him. Lin Yi's logic told him that Sky Elixir wouldn't be afraid of him. Sky Elixir probably didn't want to go through too much trouble, and that was why they were willing to trade with him. Lin Yi's offer was just to scare Kong Xiaoming. Kong Mingming had been scared by Lin Yi. Lin Yi's ultimate goal was to make Kong Ming promise him something that he could do. As for other things, he couldn't make the decision. As expected, Kong Mingming's expression changed slightly. He forced a smile and said, Isn't this too much? Is it a lot? Go treat her then. Lin Yi pointed at Wang Xinyan. Alright, I'll go ask. Kong Mingming had no choice but to take the phone to the room next door and call Sky Silkworm. After a while, Xiaoming returned to Boss Bai's office and spoke carefully. Boss Lin Yi, I've asked the young head, but he said that he can only promise you one thing, and that's a 3rd-level pill. The cauldron is out of the question, and 3rd-level pills aren't that easy to make. He can only give you an IOU for this one, and you'll need to prepare your own ingredients. Be it the ice heart pill or the chi gathering pill, our old ancestor can't make them for the time being. You'll have to wait for half a year before you can start. Lin Yi nodded. Boss Lin Yi, I've asked the young head, but he said that he can only promise you one thing, and that's to give you a 3rd-level pill. The Xianjun forefather and Kong Mingming could use treasures to recover their strength, but the cost was too high. Sky Silkworm naturally wouldn't agree to Lin Yi's request. Lin Yi frowned. Silkworm wasn't easy to talk to. He'd expected it to be this hard, but he hadn't expected it to be this hard. This person wasn't reckless, and even if he wanted the recipe, he'd control the cost. You don't have it in stock? Then where did you get the chi gathering pill? Lin Yi frowned. It's from before. If I had more, then I wouldn't just be a Sky class mid-phase. The Sky Elixir School and the young master both value the bone cleansing pill a lot, and they seem to have some use for it. In order to increase the success rate and quality of the pill, they're willing to pay any price to increase my strength. If there were more chi gathering pills, they'd definitely let me use them to level up. Kong Mingming said honestly. Towards Lin Yi, he didn't dare to play any tricks, but he almost spilled the beans and revealed the matter of the Xianjun forefather. The identity of the Xianjun forefather was strictly confidential. If Kong Mingming were to reveal it, the consequences would be severe. The outside world didn't know that the Sky Elixir School had a relationship with the Xianjun forefather. Oh, Lin Yi nodded his head. It seemed like the bone cleansing pill was really important to the Sky Elixir School. Otherwise, they wouldn't have let Kong Mingming take so many experience pills. Then aren't you a tier 3 alchemist now? Can't you continue refining? No, I just refined the bone cleansing pill. I can't refine it. Kong Mingming said honestly. Furthermore, even if I could refine it, the success rate of refining this kind of pill that I haven't refined before is not high. If you can accept failure and keep providing me with materials, I'm willing to give it a try. Then forget it. Lin Yi didn't believe in Kong Mingming's ability. It seemed that the Sky Elixir School wasn't so easy to fool. One pill is too little, and it's a futures contract. I don't want to agree. Okay, then I'll ask the young head again. Kong Mingming was just a messenger. He didn't have any opinions. He turned around and left the room again to call the sky silkworm transformation. About 5 minutes later, Kong Ming came back to Boss Bai's office again. He said to Lin Yi with a bitter face, "The young head said that at most 1 pill. You can provide the materials for the gathering chi pill in half a year, and the success is guaranteed. You can provide the materials for the Ice Heart Jade Bone pill, but the success is not guaranteed." The success is still not guaranteed? Lin Yi frowned. Yes, the young head said that this is the greatest sincerity that the Sky Elixir School can offer. It's the same for all these years. If you don't agree, then forget it. The Sky Elixir School can study the elixir recipes themselves. Anyway, this time I only want the elixir recipes to make more money. I can also refine the bone cleansing pill that I need. They are not determined to get it. Kong Ming conveyed the words of the sky silkworm transformation to Lin Yi. However, since you have doubts, to show the sincerity of the Sky Elixir School, we are going to give you a map. What map? Lin Yi asked. Chapter 2742. Haha, so you're saying that you can cheat in the Sky Elixir sex test? If I can cheat, does that mean others can as well? Lin Yi smiled, his tone full of mockery. I'm just a messenger, Lin Yi boss, don't make it hard on me. I've said everything I need to say, so it's up to you whether you agree or not. Kong Ming shrugged helplessly. I really want to complete this mission, but the young master won't let me go. There's nothing I can do. Kong Ming was right in his phone call with Silkworm. He'd wanted to ask for more equipment, but they didn't agree. Lin Yi, however, heard it. How about this? I'll agree to Sky Elixir's terms, but you have to promise me one more thing. Lin Yi could tell that Kong Ming was trying his best to make this deal happen, but it was understandable. He'd just joined Sky Elixir, and it was normal for him to want to make a contribution. But the map of Sky Elixir's test was a good thing. Lin Yi didn't think that Silkworm would trade something like this, but it was good as well. It would lessen the danger Lin Yi would have to face in the test with Chikuan, and he wouldn't have to worry about Chikuan getting into trouble. All he needed was the map. What's the condition? Kong Ming asked. Have your brother break off the engagement with Wang Xinyan, Lin Yi said. He'd thought of the condition beforehand. To put it bluntly, everything else was just a cover for Lin Yi. An unexpected windfall. No, Lin Yi, don't go overboard. This is Sky Elixir's business. Don't drag House Kong into it. Kong Ming didn't say anything, but Xiaolong panicked. He jumped out and screamed, breaking off the engagement is impossible. I'll never agree to it. Kong Ming wanted to persuade his brother. Women were all fleeting clouds, and once he established himself in Sky Elixir, House Kong would be powerful enough to have all kinds of women. He didn't expect Xiaolong's reaction to be this intense. Yeah, Boss Lin. I'm representing the Sky Elixir sect in this exchange. It's unreasonable for me to sacrifice myself. You've seen my brother's attitude. There's nothing I can do. Xiaolong didn't expect Xiaolong to react this fiercely. Lin Yi was surprised by Xiaolong's attitude. He'd planned it all out, forcing Xiaoming to let him persuade Xiaolong to break off the engagement. But who knew that Xiaolong would suddenly jump out and ruin everything? But Lin Yi underestimated Xiaolong's mood. Xiaolong didn't really care about Wang Xinyan before. But ever since he was in the same class with Xinyan and Lin Yi, his mentality became twisted and twisted. Lin Yi and Xinyan kept provoking him, pushing him into a dead end. If he couldn't get Xinyan, he'd have a mental breakdown. This was a perverted obsession, something normal people couldn't comprehend. Only the people involved could understand this complicated feeling. Then how about this? Before we graduate, tell your brother to stop harassing Xinyan. Lin Yi sighed, deciding to go with the next best thing. Well, Kong Ming looked at Xiaolong, but it seemed like Xiaolong still didn't want to agree. Kong Ming had no choice but to drag Xiaolong out of the room. Xiaoming, Lin Yi is too much, we can't agree to this. If we agree to this, we'll lose face. Xiaolong said angrily. Aren't you the 8th elder of Sky Elixir? Why are you such a coward? Bro, this isn't about being a coward. The problem is that I haven't established myself in Sky Elixir yet. I'm relying on this mission to get the young master's recognition. If I don't complete this mission, I'll be marginalized. Kong Ming said helplessly. If I'm marginalized, then Lin Yi will be able to do whatever he wants with House Kong. At that time, don't even mention the condition of not harassing Xinyan. Even if he wants you to break off the engagement, you'll have to grit your teeth and agree to it. Xiaolong wasn't an idiot. He calmed down after Kong Mingming explained the reason. He was a black-bellied person, but sometimes he'd let his anger get the better of him. It was like that just now, when he thought about how Linny wanted to be with Xinyan officially. Now that he understood Kong Mingming's situation, he nodded unwillingly. Alright then, but I want to set 3 rules with Linny. Alright, as long as you agree to it. Kong Mingming let out a sigh of relief. Bro, don't worry. Once this mission is completed and my position stabilizes, I'll be able to ride on the young master's coattails. I'll be strong and you can do whatever you want. You can change the rules whenever you want if you're strong enough. That's true. Xiaolong felt much better after listening to Kong Mingming's words. He finally nodded reluctantly. That's right. We're holding back for now so that we can step on people more easily in the future. Don't you understand that? Kong Mingming said, satisfied. I understand. I'm just a little unsatisfied. Xiaolong said helplessly. Alright, let's go. Kong Mingming didn't hide anything when he was talking to Xiaolong. Linny heard it. And he didn't think that Linny wouldn't be able to guess that he wanted revenge even if he didn't say it. The hatred between the two was already set in stone. If Kong Mingming didn't take revenge on Linny one day when he had the strength, that would be the real problem. When they arrived at Boss Bai's office, Kong Mingming said, Alright Linny, I've talked to my bro. I'll agree to your request, but at the same time, my bro needs to set 3 rules with you. What rules? Linny asked. It's simple. I can stop harassing Wang Xinyan, but Wang Xinyan can't have a relationship with you. That's my bottom line. I don't want my wife to make me a cuckold. Xiaolong said. If you can do it, then I'll agree. Oh, okay. Linny nodded. He had achieved his goal. It could be said that Linny had achieved his goal through his threat. It could be said that he had returned from a rewarding journey. When Kong Mingming called Linny to ask about the recipe, Linny thought about it carefully and realized that when he was setting up another flaw, he accidentally created the flaw Kong Mingming was talking about. In layman's terms, it was a bug. It wasn't intentional on Linny's part. Chapter 2743. However, at the same time that the bug was fixed, a new problem arose. The pill formula for the bone and marrow cleansing pill had become a 4th-grade pill formula. In order to fix this bug, part of the refining process required the temperature and intensity of a 4th-grade pill fire to refine the pill. The real bone and marrow cleansing pill was a 4th-level pill, and Lin Yi's original modified recipe was based on the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing. It was a 3rd-level pill, but after Lin Yi modified it, it became a 4th-level pill. As for whether or not Kong Mingming could make it after getting the recipe, that wasn't Lin Yi's concern. Something as easy as that was exchanged for a 3rd-level pill option, a map of the Sky Elixir School's trial, and a promise not to harass Xinyan during school. It was worth it. But the Sky Elixir School's Sky Silkworm transformation wasn't easy to talk to, and Lin Yi wasn't able to get much out of it. It seemed that the Sky Elixir School was different from the House of You. They weren't that easy to trick. Then why don't you give me the recipe? Kong Mingming was eager to make a contribution. You didn't give me the map of the Sky Elixir School, and you didn't promise to make the pill. How am I supposed to give you the recipe? Lin Yi asked. I'll have the Sky Elixir School email the map to your mailbox. You just have to check it, Kong Mingming said. As for the promise to make the pill, the Sky Elixir School's promises are always valid. Everyone in the ancient world knows about this, so we have our credibility. Alright, then give me the map first, Lin Yi said. As for promises, I don't really believe in them. You should get them to give me a proof of making the pill so I can have proof in the future. That's fine. I'll ask the Heavenly Elixir sect to issue a certificate of alchemy. Kong Mingming nodded readily. Is that okay now? Not yet. I'll give the recipe to Mr. Bai first. With Mr. Bai's guarantee, when I receive the map and the proof, Mr. Bai will naturally give you the recipe. As Lin Yi spoke, he gave the recipe that he had just written to Boss Bai. How do I know if it's real or not? Kong Mingming hesitated for a moment before asking. Why don't you ask Teacher Bai? Lin Yi said. Alright. Kong Mingming turned to look at Boss Bai. Mr. Bai, what do you think? Boss Bai took over Lin Yi's recipe and was slightly surprised. He didn't expect that what Linny wrote was a level 4 recipe, but it also matched the legendary level of the real bone and marrow cleansing pill. Looking at the pharmacology and properties inside, there was no problem. The recipe should be for making the bone and marrow cleansing pill, so Boss Bai nodded and said, "It's indeed the recipe for the bone and marrow cleansing pill. There's no problem." That's good. Although Kong Ming didn't know how powerful Boss Bai was, he heard that Xianjin ancestor and the heavenly silkworm sect admired him very much. So, Kong Ming didn't think much about it. After all, the heavenly silkworm sect approved of this exchange. I'll contact the heavenly elixir sect right now. Very soon, the heavenly silkworm sect sent a map of the heavenly elixir sect's trial, and a certificate of alchemy from the heavenly elixir sect, according to the email address that Kong Ming provided. The certificate stated that they could refine the Qi gathering pill, or the ice heart pill half a year later. The Qi gathering pill could guarantee success, but the ice heart pill couldn't. Can you give me the recipe now? Kong Ming asked Linny after doing all this. It's best if you don't tell others about this map. Otherwise, you won't be able to pick a good pill if everyone else passes the trial. You understand? Okay. I'll let Mr. Bai be the supervisor for what your brother promised. If he breaks the promise, Mr. Bai has the right to expel him from the school, Linny said. Is that okay? No. Zhao Long gritted his teeth. Okay, Mr. Bai, you can give them the recipe now, Linny said to Boss Bai. Okay. Mr. Bai gave the recipe to Kong Ming. Kong Xiaoming took the recipe and looked at it carefully. But when he finished, his expression changed. Is this a 4th rank recipe? Kong Xiaoming was shocked. What? Yes, that's right. Linny nodded. It is a level 4 recipe. Then why was the recipe for the bone cleansing pill? You gave me a 3rd level pill. Kong Xiaoming asked back. Are you trying to trick me? That's right. The one before was level 3, so it might be flawed. The other one is this. Do you think I can change the recipe whenever I want? Linny frowned. Do you want it? Don't give it back to me. Yes. Kong Ming thought about it. Linny wasn't even an alchemist. How could he change the recipe so easily? Not to mention him, even the old ancestor of the heavenly elixir sect and the old ancestor of the Xianzhan sect couldn't do it. If Linny could do it, it would be strange. So, sometimes when you speak the truth, no one will believe you. Kong Xiaoming was like that. He nodded and said, All right, I'll report to the young master. Kong Ming didn't dare to delay. He quickly went to the room next door and dialed the number of the silkworm transformation. Through Little Peach, he found the silkworm transformation. Young master, I'm Little Ming. Kong Ming took a deep breath and said, Oh, Little Ming. How is it? Did you get the recipe? The silkworm transformation asked. I got it. This process is really troublesome. Linny wouldn't let go. I had no choice but to agree to his condition. Kong Ming said with a sad face. What? You agreed to his condition without permission? The silkworm transformation's tone suddenly became cold. No, young sect master. Kong Ming quickly explained. I agreed to sacrifice my own interests. It has nothing to do with the heavenly elixir sect. It's like this. Linny likes my brother's fiancée, my sister-in-law, so he forced an unfair contract on my brother. Kong Xiaoming exaggerated what Linny said about Wang Xinyan, telling the story to silkworm transformation to show off. He was willing to sacrifice his own interests for the sake of his sect. So, the silkworm transformation nodded. Little Ming, if you really want to work for the sect, the heavenly elixir sect won't mistreat you. Don't worry about it. Haha, it's fine. Everything is for the sect. Kong Ming said righteously. Now that we have the recipe, there's another problem, young master. Chapter 2744. This recipe is a 4th level recipe. It's not the 3rd level recipe from before. There's a step that needs to be completed using a 4th level recipe. I compared it with the previous recipe and found that there's an extra step. Kong Xiaoming analyzed. Oh. Silkworm fell into deep thought after hearing Kong Ming's words. After a while, he said. So that means that the recipe Linny gave us before should be Zhang Liju's simplified version of the bone cleansing pill, and the other one should be the real one. Why is that? Kong Ming paused. He thought that the recipe Linny gave them was flawed. Who would have thought that it was Zhang Liju's simplified version? I'm just guessing. The legendary bone cleansing pill is a level 4 pill, and the one you brought back was a level 3, but it could be concocted, so I didn't suspect anything. Now that I think about it, if Zhang Liju could simplify and improve the qi gathering pill recipe, then why couldn't he do the same for the bone cleansing pill? Silkworm said. Makes sense, but young master, why would there be flaws in his improvements? Kong Ming didn't understand. Lowering the difficulty of the refinement, naturally there would be flaws. Silkworm said. Isn't that the same for the qi gathering pill? The real qi gathering pill should be a mystic level 1 pill. And I heard that there are no side effects after ingesting it, and the user can still absorb the qi from the surroundings for training. But the improved qi gathering pill, although a level 3 pill, doesn't allow the user to absorb the qi from the surroundings anymore, and they can only continue to use qi gathering pill to level up. I see. Young master, you're the wiser one, seeing through it right away. I thought Linny was tricking me on purpose. Kong Ming understood. Tricking you. If he could just change the recipe to trick people, then we'd be willing to be tricked. Losing to someone like this isn't a loss, but I don't think that's possible, right? Sky Silkworm didn't believe that Linny had that kind of ability. Ever since Zhang Liju, he hadn't heard of anyone being able to modify and simplify recipes. It was reasonable for the heavenly silkworm transformation to think this way. Although he was proficient in medicine, he wasn't as good as those top-notch miracle doctors. Moreover, top-notch miracle doctors didn't know how to concoct pills, so they naturally couldn't change the recipe. Miracle doctor and elixir refiner at the same time, Zhang Liju was the only one in the past 1,000 years. After all, a person's energy was limited. Who could study alchemy and medicine at the same time? This was also the reason why alchemists generally did not have much attack power. Since he was already studying alchemy, he did not have the time or mind to practice martial skills. Most importantly, refining a single pill would consume a large portion of his physical strength and jinqi. How could he have the energy to cultivate anything else? Lin Yi, on the other hand, was a special existence. Old man Lin had taught him medicine in a perverted and merciless manner since he was young. He also received Zhang Liju's teachings in the tomb. Even if the current Lin Yi wasn't as good as Zhang Liju back then, at least in theory he wasn't far behind. It was just that Lin Yi's experience and knowledge were still lacking. That's true, young master. Can I go back now? Kong Ming didn't want to stay here a second longer. He was here to act cool in front of Lin Yi, but he ended up getting scared by Lin Yi. In the end, he was scared shitless by Lin Yi, and even agreed to something that wasn't very honorable for House Kong. Naturally, Kong Xiaoming wanted to go back as soon as possible. Send the recipe to my email. You can visit your family in Donghai and come back when you're done, Sky Silkworm Transformation said. Okay, thank you, young master, Kong Ming replied quickly. After hanging up, Sky Silkworm Transformation was slightly disappointed. It was actually a level 4 recipe. Now this recipe was a bit useless. In Sky Elixir sect, no one could make a level 4 pill, not even the Xianjin ancestor. Sky Silkworm Transformation, as the young master, naturally wouldn't vent his anger in front of Kong Ming. He was just a bit annoyed that this Lin Yi, whom he had never met before, had tricked him. Lin Yi should know that this was a 4th level elixir recipe, and since he knew, he still dared to ask for a 3rd level elixir. Did he think he was an idiot? But, thinking about it, Lin Yi wasn't a refiner, so how could he know about level 3 and 4 pills? But, even if he didn't know, how could Han Jingjing or Boss Bai not know? Sky Silkworm Transformation thought about it and felt that Lin Yi was too evil. He remembered this name and was prepared to teach him a lesson when he had the chance. After getting the recipe, Xianzhan was really calm. After looking at it, he sighed and guessed. The steps added to this recipe should be the flaw in the recipe from before. Back then, Zhang Liju wanted to simplify the recipe so that more people could concoct it, but there was this flaw as well. Master, then now? Sky Silkworm Transformation asked carefully. No one knew that the Xianjin ancestor had a disciple, and this disciple was actually Sky Silkworm Transformation. Not many people in Sky Elixir sect knew about this, and in 5 Elements sect, only the Xianjin ancestor knew about it. No wonder ancestor Xianzhan was so close to the Heavenly Elixir sect. Could be explained now. It was because of this relationship. Sky Silkworm Transformation would only call the Xianjin ancestor master when there were no outsiders. At other times he would be like everyone else, calling him ancestor or Xianjin ancestor. I don't have a choice. Even if I can make this recipe, there won't be the original bone cleansing pill to eat. I can only wait for Kong Mingming to make it first, and then I can make it after I eat it. The Xianjin ancestor smiled. It's fine. It's an unexpected surprise anyway. You can leave first, I'll think about it myself. Yes, master. The Sky Elixir sect leader cupped his fists and left the room. Kong Mingming left with Xiaolong. They didn't have the face to stay in Boss Bai's office any longer, but it was good that Kong Mingming had completed the Sky Elixir sect's mission and managed to gain a foothold here. Kong Mingming's return to House Kong could be considered a return to his hometown. Xinyan sat on the sofa the whole time, not saying a word, but her heart was very complicated. She didn't think that Lin Yi would make these conditions to Kong Mingming. It seemed that she was very important to Lin Yi. Chapter 2745. Lin Yi, on the other hand, had been laying out conditions for her to break off the engagement. Although Xiaolong didn't agree, he was forced to make a promise not to harass her at school. Xinyan let out a sigh of relief. Wasn't this what she wanted? She believed that Lin Yi would become even stronger with the buffer time they had at school. Lin Yi dared to challenge Kong Mingming now, and the Sky Elixir sect didn't do anything drastic. Xinyan was full of confidence in her and Lin Yi's future. Lin Yi, this recipe. Boss Bai looked at Lin Yi. Only Lin Yi, Xinyan, and Boss Bai were left in the office. Lin Yi didn't hide it, since they were all on the same side. I changed that recipe to a 4th rank. The original recipe was also a 4th rank. I mixed it with the recipe for the Pill of Life extension and toxin cleansing to make it a 3rd rank, but I didn't expect there to be a bug like this, so I changed it a bit, but it still can't be avoided. You can change recipes. Boss Bai's eyes widened as he looked at Lin Yi in disbelief, as if he was looking at a monster. He believed that Lin Yi could change recipes, but recipes were much more complicated than normal recipes, and there were many more complicated changes in the properties of the ingredients. Even Boss Bai himself couldn't change recipes as he pleased. Yeah, isn't it the same as changing recipes? It's not difficult at all. Lin Yi nodded. I think Jing Jing can do it too. Boss Bai sucked in a cold breath and shook his head with a bitter smile. Alright, to be honest, I can't. Ugh. Lin Yi paused but said, It's fine, it's easy. We'll just have to look into it later. As Lin Yi and Boss Bai talked, Xinyan fell asleep again. What Lin Yi, Kong Mingming, and Xiaolong were talking about was related to her, so she didn't fall asleep at all. Now that things were settled, she fell asleep peacefully. And so Lin Yi quickly used the ingredients Kong Mingming brought to brew medicine for Xinyan in Boss Bai's office. At night, when Xinyan woke up, Lin Yi had her drink the medicine, planning to see how it worked tomorrow. But to Lin Yi's disappointment, Boss Bai's medicine seemed to have some effect, but it was only slightly stronger than Lin Yi's. Xinyan was still sleeping, and it wasn't helping her get better. Lin Yi didn't know what to do in this situation. Lin Yi had no choice but to call old Lin's number. Before, Lin Yi had planned to solve this problem himself. After all, if old Lin could cure this kind of weakness, he could too. He had already inherited old Lin's medical skills, and old Lin could only make the same medicine as Lin Yi's, unless he raised the level of the ingredients used, like Boss Bai's. But these ingredients were usually very precious and hard to get, and even if they were made, they wouldn't be of any use. He really didn't have any other options now, so he could only try and see if old Lin had any other creative ideas. However, when Lin Yi called, he heard a voice saying, "The number you have dialed is not in the service area, or the phone has been turned off. Please try again later." Lin Yi paused. In theory, old Lin's phone would never be turned off. He would turn it on 24 hours a day, and when it ran out of battery, he would turn it on and charge it. So Lin Yi was a little confused and worried. What happened to old Lin? Left with no other choice, he called Widow Wang's grocery store at the head of the village. "Aunt Wang, it's me, Lily," Lin Yi said. "Lily? Ah, it's you. You haven't called for a long time. What's wrong?" Aunt Wang asked with a smile. "Aunt Wang, I can't find my grandpa. Can you help me call Air Gooden to go to my house and see if my grandpa is there? If he is, ask him to call me back?" Lin Yi said. "Oh, you're looking for your grandpa." Dr. Lin went out early in the morning. He said he had to take the mountain road, so he brought Air Gooden to clear the way to avoid wild beasts. He hasn't come back yet. This time he went a little further. He said he was going to the village behind the mountain. There's no signal there, so he probably won't come back until tomorrow? Widow Wang said. Then I understand. Linny nodded and relaxed. Old Lin told the villagers that he was going to the village, but Linny knew that he was going to the West Star Valley to drink the spring water. It was the spiritual spring water that Gooden drank every time. Every once in a while, Old Lin would go drink some of the spring water, but only Linny and Gooden knew about it. This time he brought Gooden with him, so he must be going to drink the spring water as well. But since he couldn't ask Old Lin, Linny could only give up for now. He planned to wait for Wang Xinyan to wake up and talk to her. Should he tell her parents about the current situation? First, to let her parents be mentally prepared. Second, to ask what kind of medicine Wang Xinyan took that year, if she still had the recipe, and if they could find that wandering master again. After Wang Xinyan woke up, Linny told her about his thoughts. Wang Xinyan had no choice but to tell her parents the truth. Although she was afraid that they would be worried if she didn't tell them, if she continued like this, they wouldn't be mentally prepared. And so, one night after school, Wang Xinyan called her parents to the villa in the Xueshang district. Although she said that she had a problem with her body, it was still awkward for her to ask her parents to come to Lin Yi's house. It was like meeting her parents on a blind date. Wang Xubin and Qin Lin were also curious. Why would Xinyan suddenly call them to Lin Yi's villa? Naturally, they had some misunderstandings. The two arrived at the villa around 7 at night. As the owner of the villa, Lin Yi Mingyao, and Yushu naturally accompanied Xinyan to welcome them. Lin Yi smiled and greeted Wang Xubin and Qin Lin. Uncle Wang, Auntie Xiao, welcome. Please come in. All right. Wang Xubin and Qin Lin nodded politely. After all, they had discussed and agreed to respect their daughter's opinion, but their daughter was still Xiaolong's fiancée. They couldn't treat Lin Yi like a son-in-law. The two entered the villa and sat in the living room. Mengyao and Yushu went to pour some tea and sat on the side. They weren't strangers to Wang Xubin and Qin Lin, having met them before when Xinyan was kidnapped. Chapter 2746. Ah! Qin Lin and Wang Xubin blinked. They came here thinking that Wang Xinyan was going to talk to them about Lin Yi's situation. They didn't expect her to talk about some problem with her body instead. What was going on here? I've been lacking energy lately, and I like to get sleepy. I can't seem to wake up, even when I'm at school. Xinyan didn't tell them that Lin Yi was the reason for this. I wasn't living with Lin Yi when I was living here, but he was healing me, helping me with my health. What? Sleeping? Wang Xubin and Xiao Qinlin looked at each other, their eyes flashing with shock and worry at the same time. Mom, Dad, Lin Yi checked my body, and he came to a conclusion. There's nothing wrong with my body, except that it's getting weaker and weaker. Xinyan sighed. I didn't want to tell you guys at first, I didn't want you to worry, but if Lin Yi can cure it, then it'll be great and we'll pretend like nothing happened. Your body's getting weaker? Qin Lin and Wang Xubin frowned worriedly as they looked at each other again, their faces turning pale. Mom, Dad, what's wrong? Xinyan jumped at the change in her parents' faces. It's not like there's no way, Lin Yi's trying to help me. Xinyan, Wang Xubin said after a moment of silence. This problem of yours is something you were born with, it's a symptom that manifested itself when you were young. We've taken you to many hospitals, but none of them could do anything about it. An old Chinese doctor took a look at you too, and said that you wouldn't be able to live for long. Yeah, I guessed it. Xinyan nodded, not minding it. But didn't a master cure me? If he could do it back then, he should be able to do it now, right? Yes. Uncle Wang, what Xinyan said before was actually to give you a heads up, to tell you about her physical condition. The real reason why Xinyan and I called you here is to ask about the wandering expert you met before. Can we still contact them? Lin Yi asked. Then how can we contact him? Wang Xubin could not help but smile bitterly. At first, we wanted to ask for the master's contact information, but a sage-like friend beside the master said something inexplicable. Strange words. Lin Yi and Xinyan asked at the same time. What did he say? He said that he has sowed good karma today. 18 years later, everything will have karma, and we will meet again if we are fated. Wang Xubin remembered the words of the master and his friend very clearly. Then they left. I can't force them to stay. 18 years later? Everything has a cause and effect? Linny was stunned, then his expression changed. How old was Xinyan at that time? She was 2 years old at that time. Wang Xiuben seemed to have thought of something as he said this. His face turned pale. Could it be that the master meant that after 18 years, Xinyan will? This year. Isn't Xinyan 20 years old? Isn't it 18 years later? Xiao Qinlin listened to Wang Xiuben's analysis, and her face was pale as well. Her body was trembling uncontrollably. Could it be that the master meant that Xinyan would still leave after 18 years? Linny thought of this possibility as well, but at this time, he could only try to calm them down. Uncle Wang, Aunt Xiao, don't panic. I don't think that's what the master meant. Maybe he meant that you will meet him again after 18 years, or maybe you can find another solution. After calming down, Linny was a little doubtful. Perhaps the master meant that Xinyan's body would have problems after 18 years. But from another perspective, if Linny hadn't met Xinyan and used her fragrance to train, wouldn't Xinyan still be alive and well? Wouldn't there be any problems? In other words, the master might have just said it offhandedly. But if he could predict that he'd appear 18 years later and take Xinyan's fragrance, wouldn't that be a little too scary? Another way? Wang Xiuben sighed. What other way is there? It's not like we didn't think of a way back then. Even you didn't have a way, so what other way could there be? Your medical skills, and Xiao and I have heard of it. It's one of the best in the world. For example, did the master say what the prescription was, or what the name of the medicine was? Linny asked. No, the elixir was decocted by that master, and the elixir was obtained by that master's friend. We don't know the name of the elixir. Wang Xiuben shook his head and smiled bitterly. If I knew the name of the elixir and the content of the formula, I wouldn't be so depressed. I'd have to buy the elixir even if I had to sell everything I have. Then, that master didn't leave anything else aside from that? Linny asked, unwilling to give up. Yet, right. Wang Xiuben stood up all of a sudden and turned to Xinyan. Xinyan, where's your jade? You didn't take it off, did you? You've been wearing it all this time, haven't you? No. Xinyan looked at Wang Xiuben strangely before pulling the jade out of her collar. I've been wearing this since I was young and I've gotten used to it. It never leaves my body, even when I'm showering or sleeping. Xinyan suddenly let out a cry of surprise. Wang Xiuben and Qinlin, on the other hand, gasped at the sight of the jade as well. Their eyes were filled with shock and worry. What's wrong? Linny didn't know what was going on, and looked at the shocked family curiously. Xinyan, why did your jade change color? Wang Xiuben asked, shocked. I think so too, the color seems to have lightened a lot. Xinyan hadn't reacted as strongly as Wang Xiuben, after all, she'd seen the jade all the time. She didn't have much of a reaction to the change, but today, under the light, she too felt that the color had lightened. Chapter 2747. This jade. Xinyan couldn't help but wonder how much her parents valued the jade. This jade, does it have anything to do with my body? When she was young, her parents only told her that the jade was a memento, and that she had to wear it all the time. She didn't really know what it was used for. This jade pendant was left behind by that expert. He said that if you wear this jade pendant, you will be safe in the future. Wang Xiuben said. That's why I've always had you wear it. You were young back then, so I didn't explain it to you and I forgot about it later on. I only told you about the medicine. I've been wearing this jade all this time. There's no way it could have been swapped. Xinyan shook her head. The only time this jade had ever had a problem was when she'd been targeted by a robber on a school trip, but Xiaolong's appearance had diverted the robber's attention. She'd been wearing it ever since, and she'd never taken it off. Wang Xiuben picked up Xinyan's jade and examined it carefully. After a while he shook his head. The jade, it's still the same, but the color has changed. Could it be that this jade is a sign of something? Doesn't that mean our Xinyan, Xiao Qinlin's face paled. Uncle Wang, Auntie Xiao, don't think too much about it. The jade changing color might not be a sign of something. It could be something else. Lin Yi, on the other hand, didn't think that Xinyan's jade was a sign of anything, but it was a possibility that seemed impossible. But it was a possibility that he could only discuss with Xinyan in private. Something else. Wang Xiuben shook his head helplessly. You don't need to talk us out of it. Actually, your Auntie Xiao and I were prepared to lose Xinyan 18 years ago. It's just that this day has come a little too late. Happiness is too short. Qin Lin, on the other hand, was silent, but her eyes were filled with sadness. She never would have thought that Xinyan's illness would come back. Uncle Wang, don't say such depressing things. I'll do my best to cure Xinyan. Cure Xinyan's problem. Lin Yi said. Don't worry, I will definitely give you a healthy Xinyan. Lin Yi was filled with guilt regarding Xinyan's situation. He wouldn't have let something happen to Xinyan if he hadn't been greedy for power and wanted to train faster. Could be said. Xinyan had died from the aroma he'd absorbed, and so he had to find a way to solve this problem no matter how difficult it was. Lin Yi was already giving it his all for Xiao Xiao's condition, but for Wang Xinyan's condition, Lin Yi had to work even harder than Xiao Xiao. Because of Wang Xinyan, it was all his own fault. Let's hope so. Wang Xiuban seemed to have aged a great deal in that instant. His smile was filled with bitterness. Lily, I'll have to trouble you then. Your aunt and I are going to pack up and sell the company. I'm going to bring her back to the place where we met the master. Let's see if we can meet him again. Didn't he say? 18 years later, will we meet again? Xiao Qinlin nodded as well. She looked at Xinyan, her eyes shining with reluctance. Xinyan, from now on you and Lin Yi can be together. Do whatever you want as long as you're happy. Don't worry about anything. Mom, what are you talking about? Xinyan blushed at Qinlin's words. I'm not really dying. Lin Yi will definitely have a way, right, Lin Yi? Xinyan winked at Lin Yi as she spoke. Yeah, Uncle Wang and Xiao, don't worry. I'll do my best. How about I go with you guys to the place where you met the master? Lin Yi asked. Bring Xinyan too. That way, if we meet the master, we can deal with Xinyan's problem immediately. That's fine, but it's very far from here. I don't want to delay your studies. Wang Xiuban said. Where is it? We have a car now, it's very convenient. Should we take a plane if it's too far? Lin Yi asked. It's a small village not too far from Miaojiang. I remember it's called West Star Mountain Village. Wang Xiuban said. Wah! Lin Yi's eyes widened as if he had been struck by lightning when Wang Xiuban said the village's name. His heart was filled with all sorts of emotions, shock, but more than anything else he was happy and excited. West Star Mountain Village. Wasn't that his hometown? And the master there? There hadn't been any other master other than old Lin in all these years, had there? Meng Yao and Yushu, on the other hand, were staring at Lin Yi in disbelief as well. Xinyan's family, on the other hand, didn't know what was going on as they looked at Lin Yi, Meng Yao, and Yushu. You guys, what's wrong? Xinyan asked. Xinyan sis, you're saved. Yushu said excitedly. The master Uncle Wang and Aunt Xiao met is most likely Shield Bro's grandfather. Ah? Lin Yi's grandfather? Xinyan turned to Lin Yi, shocked as well. Wang Xiuban and Xiao Qinlin were even more dumbfounded, not knowing what to say as they looked at Lin Yi with a strange expression on their faces. Phew! Lin Yi let out a long sigh of relief, feeling as if he'd been searching high and low for something. So that master was old Lin? But if old Lin could cure Xinyan's problem, why couldn't Lin Yi do it himself? Logically speaking, Lin Yi had inherited all of old Lin's medical skills. Lin Yi, is what Shu said true? Qinlin asked excitedly as she looked at Lin Yi. It should be, but I need to confirm it first. Lin Yi took out his phone and quickly logged into his photo album, downloading a couple of pictures and handing them to Wang Xiuban and Qinlin. You guys confirm that this is the master who gave you the elixir and the jade pendant back then. Is this the person who gave you the elixir and the jade? Wang Xiuban took Lin Yi's phone with trembling hands, almost dropping it from the excitement he felt. Chapter 2748. Yes, it's him. He's the master from back then. Wang Xiuban said excitedly to Lin Yi. Is he really your grandfather? If it's him, then he's the old man in my house. You can say that he's my grandfather, since he said that we're not related by blood. I was adopted. Lin Yi shrugged and smiled, his tone relaxed. As long as this person was confirmed to be old Lin, the rest would be easy. Lin Yi just had to wait for him and Gooden to come back from the fountain and call him. Lin Yi, then I'll leave this to you. When do we leave? Wang Xiuban was impatient. He couldn't wait to bring Xinyan to see Lin Yi's grandfather and treat her. There's no rush, my grandfather went to the neighboring village for a few days and hasn't come back yet. I'll contact him when he comes back, Linny said. That's good, that's good. Wang Xiuben didn't think that things would end up in such a dramatic way. The master was Lin Yi's grandfather. This made him even more inclined to let Xin Yan and Lin Yi be together. After all, if it weren't for Lin Yi's grandfather, Xin Yan would have died a long time ago. This time they still had to rely on Lin Yi's grandfather. Xin Yan's life would belong to the Lin family. Marrying Lin Yi was a very reasonable thing to do. Uncle Wang, Auntie Xiao, it's getting late. Do you want to sleep here or? Lin Yi asked. If you want to rest here, I'll prepare a guest room for you. It's fine, let's go back. It's not far. We feel much better knowing that Xin Yan is fine. Qinlin smiled. Lily, I'll leave Xin Yan in your hands. You can't let anything happen to her. Haha, I'll do my best. Lin Yi nodded with a smile. Xin Yan was very happy as well. She thought that she was hopeless. But who would have thought that Lin Yi's grandfather was her savior all those years ago? Didn't that mean that she could be saved again? Everything has its cause. 18 years later, Xin Yan suddenly remembered what that friend of Lin Yi's grandpa had said. She couldn't help but be shocked. Could it be that he'd foreseen that he'd be with Lin Yi 18 years later? Could it be that he'd met Lin Yi's grandfather again because of the danger? Seemed like that was the case. Xin Yan felt that it was a miracle, but a master was naturally a miracle. She couldn't use common sense to judge him. Wang Xiuben and Xiao Qinlin looked at Lin Yi, then at their daughter. They seemed to have realized the same thing as well, and their eyes were filled with shock and amazement. The two were relieved and naturally left. Haha, Shield bro, you can keep training now, Yushu said happily after Wang Xiuben and his wife left. I'm afraid I can't do it now. I'll have to wait for the old man to come back. I'll give him a call and ask. Lin Yi said. That's true. Yushu nodded before turning on the TV. Wait, I still have something to say. Lin Yi waved his hand, stopping Yushu from turning on the TV. Oh? What is it? Yushu put down the TV remote curiously. Xin Yan, let me see your jade. Lin Yi said. Can you just look at it like that? Xin Yan said, a little embarrassed. I've been wearing it since I was young, and the coil is a little small, and the red string is a dead knot. I can't untie it. I'd have to pull it off if I wanted to take it off. With that, Xin Yan stood up and bent down in front of Lin Yi, showing him the jade. But the first thing that jumped into Lin Yi's eyes wasn't the jade, but the two jade rabbits on her chest. Xin Yan had been wearing loose clothes lately in order to let Lin Yi train smoothly. She didn't wear a bra either, so when she lowered her head, he could see her breasts through her collar. Before, Wang Su had walked over to look at the jade, so naturally there wouldn't be a problem. But Lin Yi just sitting there and looking at it was a huge problem. Lin Yi's heart raced as he picked up Xin Yan's jade, trying to hide his awkwardness. Xin Yan, however, seemed to have realized something at that moment. She wanted to stand up, but the jade was already in Lin Yi's hands, and she couldn't stand up. She could only lower her body and let Lin Yi see her breasts. It wasn't the first time he'd seen it, and he'd even touched it before. She'd be with Lin Yi anyway. It wasn't like she planned on being with anyone else. Xin Yan started comforting herself. Shield bro's so perverted. Yushu, who was sitting beside Lin Yi, noticed the secret at the collar. Xin Yan's face reddened instantly, and she wanted to dig a hole in the ground to hide in. Lin Yi, on the other hand, was even more embarrassed. Perverted what? Did you forget that you were trying to seduce Lin Yi with your papayas naked? Meng Yao glared at Yushu, telling her not to interrupt. Oh! Yushu stuck her tongue out, not daring to say anything else. Xin Yan, on the other hand, was a little puzzled. Yushu seduced Lin Yi before? Did Lin Yi take the bait? She didn't feel embarrassed anymore when she thought about other people. Lin Yi was a little confused at first, but his attention shifted to the jade as he studied it. He was deeply attracted to it. Lin Yi felt that Xin Yan's jade gave him a familiar feeling when he was robbed on the bus, but he didn't pay much attention to it at the time. Now that he studied it, he realized that it was very similar to the one Lin Yi had on him. The material of the jade was a little inferior, but the craftsmanship gave Lin Yi a sense of déjà vu. It was exactly the same as the one he had on him. The only difference was that this jade seemed to be a simplified version of the one he had on him, or more accurately, a prototype that hadn't been completed yet. His jade pendant was of a much higher quality than Xin Yan's, be it the material, the carvings, or the feel of it. Xinyan's pendant was simple, but he felt as if the two were made by the same person. Could it be that his jade wasn't unique? Wasn't his jade found in the Xianyuan's cave in the West Star Cave? Or could it be that old Lin had found a similar jade around here and gave it to Xinyan? Remember our website. Chapter 2749. Linny couldn't make sense of this chain of coincidences. Was there some sort of secret behind all this? He thought back to when he gave the jade and the art of dragon mastery to old Lin in the Xianyuan cave. Old Lin didn't say anything and only told him to practice. Could it be that he was hiding something? He shook his head and turned his eyes back to the jade. Xinyan, this jade of yours is probably a treasure that provides energy to your body. The reason why the jade's color is fading is probably because the energy is being drained out of it. It's a little similar to the energy stone Sunjingi, and I found in the Woolenhate Mountains. The color of an energy stone would darken after releasing its energy. Of course, this is just my guess. You'll have to ask my old man about the specifics. Okay. Xinyan was very happy at this moment. She forgot her embarrassment and said, if we can solve this problem, then you can practice all you want in the future. You don't have to worry about me anymore. That's true, but before I get in touch with my old man, I don't want to. Linny shook his head with lingering fear. If it wasn't for this series of coincidences, Xinyan might not have had any hope. Linny would live in self-blame and guilt for the rest of his life. Shield bro, I think you have a jade like that? Yushu had seen Linny shirtless before, and remembered that he had a jade on him as well. Yeah, I have one too. But it's a little different from Xinyan's. Linny didn't go into details about the secret of the jade. He didn't want to expose it for now. Oh, Yushu just mentioned it casually. She didn't pay much attention to it. While they were talking, Lin Yi's phone suddenly rang. Linny looked at the caller ID. It was old Lin. Linny quickly walked into his room and picked up the phone. Old man, you're back from drinking water? Linny asked anxiously. Yep, you're back. Why are you looking for me? Old Lin asked. You even called Widow Wang's grocery store at the entrance of the village. Is there something urgent? Yes, it's urgent. Linny said anxiously. 18 years ago, didn't you treat a little girl? Oh. Old Lin was speechless. I've treated too many little girls. I'm the only doctor in this area. How could I remember so many of them? Is there a problem? No. What I mean is, there is a rather special one. Not only did you treat her, you even gave her a jade pendant. Linny quickly explained. Oh. Old man Lin paused, then immediately remembered the person Linny was talking about. That's right, I remember this person. I met him when I was picking herbs with an old friend in the valley. How did you know? It's a long story. I have a friend named Wang Xinyan. I met her the first time I came to Songshan. When I first came to Songshan, I met her on the train. Linny said. Then told old Lin about how he met Wang Xinyan and what happened after that. Now that's the situation. If I knew you were the one who treated her, I would have looked for you earlier. I wouldn't have waited until now. Old Lin listened to Lin Yi's words, but he didn't respond immediately. Instead, he fell into silence. After a long time, old Lin finally said, What if I said I couldn't do anything? You couldn't do anything? Lin Yi froze on the spot. He even thought he heard wrong. Oh man, what did you say? Didn't you treat her back then? The medicine I gave her was actually just a normal medicine, similar to the one you made. Old Lin smiled bitterly and told the truth. The medicine was only supplementary. The key was the herb and the jade. Weren't you the one who gave her the elixir and the jade pendant? Linny asked anxiously. I did, but the herb and the jade aren't mine. They're someone else's. Old Lin sighed and said, Your previous guess was right. That jade pendant was actually a trial product. It was made by the same person as your jade pendant, but this person is no longer on this planet. Wah! Lin Yi's eyes widened. Not on this planet. What do you mean? Already dead? No. It's a long story and you don't need to know the details right now. All you need to know is that this person won't give you the jade anymore. Old Lin said. Without the jade and the herb, her lifespan will only be extended for another year or so. 1 year. Then what about the herb after a year? Linny asked. Let's not talk about whether or not we can find the elixir. Even if we can find it, the effect will be greatly reduced. I'm talking about the effect of the first time. In fact, the second time should be less than a year. After that, the effect will become less and less. Old Lin said. So this is not the best solution. Then what do we do with the jade? Linny regretted it very much. His greed for training had led to this result. There's nothing I can do about the jade pendant for now. If you hadn't forcefully absorbed the energy within that jade pendant, it would have been enough for her to use for the rest of her life. You forcefully absorbed the fragrance from her body, causing the jade pendant to continuously replenish her energy, so the jade pendant was quickly used up. Old Lin explained. That? What about your friend? Does he have a solution? Linny asked. He doesn't have one, and he's not the jade's creator. Old Lin said. Actually, Wang Xinyan's constitution is very special. I've studied it before, and her constitution is even more special than Xiao Xiao's. Then what's the result of your research? Linny said, panicking. I gave the jade to her, and I stopped studying it after that. Old Lin said honestly. Linny was a little speechless. He didn't want to give up. Is there really no other way? Then can I give my jade pendant to her? The jade is a one-time use, you can't use it. Other people can't use yours and you can't use hers either. Old Lin said. You don't have to think about that. So you knew about the jade from the start. This was the first time Linny knew that the jade was a one-time use. Chapter 2750. At this point, Old Man Lin paused for a moment as if he suddenly thought of something and hurriedly said, Oh right, after she takes the elixir, she can use a small qi-gathering pill or some other pure energy elixir to prolong her life. Although it won't last long, this is the only way I can think of. A small qi-gathering pill. Lin Yi's lips twitched. This pill was priceless, but it couldn't extend her lifespan for long. It was a bottomless pit, but there was no other way. Lin Yi gritted his teeth. It seemed like he'd have to work harder to make pills for Han Jingjing in the future. But don't worry, I'll help you look into it. I can't let my granddaughter-in-law die, can I? Old Lin comforted with a smile. Ha. Linny smiled as well. He didn't know why, but Linny trusted Old Lin very much. It was a strange kind of trust. Sometimes, when he was in trouble, Old Lin's words would always calm him down. Right, will my jade ever run out of energy? Linny suddenly thought of his own jade. He used it for training every day, and that strange thing that appeared out of nowhere had taken over his jade, fighting for the energy within it. If his jade was the same as Wang Xinyan's, wouldn't it run out of energy very quickly? Oh, yours won't. Old Lin shook his head. Wang Xinyan's was a trial product, flawed. Yours, on the other hand, is perfect. The energy in your jade is... Oh, to put it simply, you just need to know that it's endless. I see. Linny let out a breath of relief. Let's not talk about the jade for now. How do I get it? Spirit medicine. Old Man Lin hesitated for a moment before falling silent again. What is it? Old man. Is that spirit medicine hard to find as well? Linny frowned. Spirit medicine is hard to find. Old Lin didn't know how to explain this to Lin Yi. He didn't know if he should tell Lin Yi. Then there must be a way to find it, right? Where did that elixir of yours come from? Lin Yi asked. Back then. Old Man Lin didn't continue. Instead he fell into deep thought. That elixir came from the Snowy Valley, but it was Little Yi's master who personally went to the Snowy Valley to ask for it. But as time passed, after so many years, Little Yi's master had already left. Old Man Lin wouldn't be able to use the same method he used in the past to snatch another spirit herb. He couldn't leave West Star Mountain Village, and even if he did, without Master Yi's cooperation, he wouldn't be as intimidating as he was back then. There were some things that Linny didn't know yet. Old Man Lin had made him develop a sense of dependence too early, which wasn't good for his growth. Just as Mo Kongwen had said, Lin Yi, who grew through training, would receive more benefits than he could imagine. Now that Lin Yi was growing step by step, it also proved what Mo Kongwen had said in the past. In fact, Mo Kongwen was right. There was never a time when it was wrong. Back then, when he told Old Man Lin about Wang Xinyan's karma after 18 years, Old Man Lin found it strange. But he didn't expect that in the blink of an eye, 18 years later, Wang Xinyan would become Lin Yi's girlfriend. But now, Old Man Lin didn't tell him about the snowy valley, not because he wanted to hide what happened back then, but because Tang Yun was in the snowy valley. Old Man Lin didn't know how to tell Lin Yi. Should he tell him? Or should he not tell him? If he told him, would he meet Tang Yun after he went there? Would there be any negative consequences and effects because of this? Old man, what's wrong? Why did you stop halfway through your sentence? Lin Yi asked curiously. It's nothing, I was just thinking about the name of that elixir. It's been too long, I just remembered it now. Old Man Lin said. Oh? What's it called? Lin Yi didn't suspect anything. That elixir's name is Jade Orchid Jasper Grass. This elixir grows in the ancient sect's snowy valley. It's very rare. Old Man Lin gritted his teeth and told Lin Yi. He couldn't keep it a secret forever, could he? Of course, Old Man Lin didn't know about Mrs. Tang's feat in the snowy valley yet. If he did, he wouldn't have told Lin Yi but Meng Yao. Ancient sect's snowy valley? Lin Yi paused. Wasn't that the sect of Zhang Liju's old lover? It seemed like they had some sort of history. However, he didn't know how to ask for this stock of spiritual medicine. Old man, how did you get your elixir back then? Your master did it, I don't know, Old Man Lin said. I see. Lin Yi nodded, not thinking much about it. If his master could get it, then it shouldn't be a problem for him, right? Plus, Lin Yi had the sky-class weapon that the founder of the Snowy Valley had used. Even if the Snowy Valley didn't want to trade, they could trade with him. But wasn't it too much of a loss to trade a sky-class weapon for elixir? Lin Yi wondered if he should get more things from the Snowy Valley. That's all I know. Snowy Valley, if you want to go, you better discuss it with Meng Yao and the others. Old Man Lin reminded. Oh, okay. Lin Yi didn't mind, thinking that Old Man Lin meant that there would be no one to protect them if he left. After hanging up, Lin Yi was half happy and half worried. He was happy that Xinyan's situation was temporarily alleviated, but he was worried that the jade pendant was the ultimate solution. But the person who made it wasn't on this planet. What was going on? How is it? Is there a way? Meng Yao asked when she saw Lin Yi walk out of the room. There is, but I need to go out and get the elixir. Lin Yi didn't want to worry them, so he kept the jade a secret. The medicine the old man made is pretty much the same as mine, the only difference is the elixir. I'm going to get it in a couple of days, and Xinyan's problem will be solved. Oh, Shield Bro, are you going back to West Star Village? Yushu asked. No, I'm going to another ancient sect. The old man doesn't have this elixir. Lin Yi shook his head. I've told you about this sect before. It's called Snowy Valley. What? Snowy Valley? Yushu and Meng Yao gasped at the same time, and Xinyan's eyes went wide. You're going to Snowy Valley? Chapter 2751. Oh, it's nothing, I just feel that it's dangerous. You see, the trip to the Ice Palace didn't go well either, we're a bit worried. Yushu said. That's not a problem. My strength isn't enough to scare the ancient sects, but I have the right to talk to them. Plus, I have a trump card, a sky-class weapon from the founder of the Snowy Valley. They'll have to trade with me no matter what. Lin Yi didn't feel the pressure from the Ice Palace this time. Lin Yi was too weak back then. But in the blink of an eye, Lin Yi had grown. He wasn't as weak as he used to be. Meng Yao wanted to tell him that he didn't even need to go to the Snowy Valley to exchange for it. He could just talk to Tang Yun or Mrs. Tang, and he would be able to get the herb. But she couldn't. She couldn't. It wasn't realistic to say that Wang Shubin got all the herbs from the Snowy Valley. Wang Shubin was just a normal merchant. How could he get in touch with the ancient sects? But it was even more unrealistic to say that he had a friend in the Snowy Valley. Lin Yi basically knew the relationship between the two. It was too sudden to have a friend from the Snowy Valley. So Meng Yao, Yushu, and Xinyan didn't know what to say to Lin Yi. Of course, they didn't care if Lin Yi used a sky-class weapon to trade for the herb, but they didn't want him to meet Tang Yun. Then, when do you plan to go? Meng Yao had no choice but to ask. After all, there was no way to stop this. The sooner the better. Lin Yi said. If there's nothing important, I'll leave tomorrow. Tomorrow? That's so soon. Meng Yao didn't have any reason to stop him, so she gave Yushu a look. Ah. Shield Bro, Shu misses you a little, can you leave a few days later? Yushu was usually the one with the most excuses, but even she was stunned now. She couldn't find an excuse to make Lin Yi stay. Question mark. Lin Yi looked at the two curiously. Ao Shu, what's wrong? The earlier I go, the earlier I can treat Xinyan, wouldn't that be better? Why do you have to go so late? Yushu had no choice but to turn to Xinyan for help. It's like this. Yao Yao and Shu are actually doing this for my sake. Xinyan was the last to speak. Isn't Kong Xiaoming back? She thought of an excuse. He hasn't left yet. Shu is afraid that if you leave, he will come looking for trouble again. So Shu wants to wait for Kong Mingming to go back. Go to the Snow Valley again. Oh, I see. Xinyan's words made sense. He nodded. All right, we'll wait a few days then. Mengyao and Yushu let out a breath of relief at the same time. They admired Xinyan a little. Yushu wanted to say something. Big sister Xinyan, you're so smart. At night, Linny slept alone while Mengyao, Yushu, and Xinyan went upstairs to rest. Linny couldn't train for now, and Xinyan couldn't sleep with Linny anymore. She hadn't officially agreed to be Linny's girlfriend yet, so Linny would be embarrassed if they slept together. They went upstairs. The three breathed a sigh of relief, but at the same time they were worried. Tang Yun was in the Snow Valley, and they thought that Linny and the Snow Valley wouldn't have anything to do with each other in this life. They didn't expect that Linny would go to the Snow Valley again. What do we do? Why hasn't Tang Yun called back yet? Mengyao frowned worriedly. Back then, Kong Xiaobo didn't have the chance to ask Tang Yun about Tang Yuqi's situation. He said that Tang Yun would call back, but she never did. But this is also a good thing. If Tang Yun sis calls us these 2 days, we can tell her that Shield Bro is going to Snow Valley. She'll be prepared and won't be exposed, Yushu said. That's true. I hope she can call back in a few days. Mengyao sighed helplessly. If it doesn't work, we can only leave it to fate. I'm really sorry, it's all because of me. Otherwise Lin Yi wouldn't be able to go to the Snow Valley, Xinyan said apologetically. What does it have to do with you? If Lin Yi didn't suck away all your energy, you wouldn't be like this. Mengyao shook her head. I'm just worried that he'll remember Tang Yun, and then things will get troublesome. With his current strength, he won't be able to fight against the Snow Valley. Xiao Xiao went to the Ice Palace to save her life, but Tang Yun went to the Snow Valley because of Lin Yi. The two are different. I'm afraid that Lin Yi will cause trouble in the Snow Valley. I don't think so. Even if Tang Yun sees Shield Bro, she won't reunite with him, so we don't need to worry too much. Yushu was the first to calm down. Yao Yao, we were too worried. Shu's right, we were too worried. Xinyan let out a breath of relief. So what if Lin Yi goes to the Snow Valley? Tang Yun won't even reunite with him, and the others won't say anything either. That's true, Mengyao nodded, and the others didn't think too much, preparing to shower and sleep. After returning to his room, Lin Yi didn't sleep right away, but went straight into the jade space. Although he didn't have Xinyan's help, he still had to continue his training. Jiao Lao, were you made by someone? Lin Yi looked at Jiao Yazi, who wasn't far away, and couldn't help but ask. What? Jiao Yazi blinked. What do you mean made by someone? I'm just a soul clone that was created by someone else. What I'm saying is that you were made in the recent decades. Lin Yi had always thought that Jiao Yazi's jade came from the ancient times, or even further back, but after hearing old Lin's words it didn't seem like that was the case. This jade seemed to have been made in the recent decades, because the person who made it knew old Lin. I'm not sure about that, but like I said, my memories are sealed, and I can only wake up when you get stronger. If you don't, I can't do anything, Jiao Yazi said. As expected. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Right, there's one more thing. I've been so busy with Xinyan stuff that I didn't get the chance to ask you. Does the ethereal element in me come from the art of dragon mastery? Chapter 2752. After adjusting his condition, Lin Yi started channeling the 9th form of Frenzy Fist. When he was done, Lin Yi changed the method of activation to the 5 elements 8 trigrams palm. Unfortunately, the technique failed at the last moment, and Lin Yi didn't succeed in activating it. Lin Yi could clearly feel that the 9th form of Frenzy Fist was channeling smoothly, but at the last moment, he changed the method of activation. It was as if the qi in his body wasn't enough to support the release of the technique, and so it failed. It seemed like his qi wasn't enough to support the activation of the 9th form of Frenzy Fire 8 trigrams palm. Lin Yi was a little disappointed, but he wasn't surprised. With his Earth-class late-phase strength, it was a little too shocking for him to activate the 15th form of a Sky-class technique. After all, the 15th form of a Sky-class technique could only be used by someone at least Sky-class mid-phase. For the time being, the 9th form of Frenzy Fire 8 trigrams palm was enough. With that thought in mind, Lin Yi continued to train with peace of mind. The next morning, Meng Yao, Yushu, and Xinyan didn't expect that Kong Mingming would actually leave Donghai and return to the Sky Elixir sect. This news came from Xiaolong, so naturally it couldn't be false. Kong Mingming asked Xiaolong to pass a letter to Lin Yi. In the letter, he told Lin Yi not to go against House Kong anymore. Even if it wasn't for the sake of the monk, it was for the sake of the Buddha. He, Kong Mingming, was an elder of the Sky Elixir sect, after all, and Lin Yi shouldn't go too far. Of course, from Lin Yi's point of view, this letter was actually Kong Mingming giving in and begging for mercy. It was only because of his identity. It wasn't as obvious as it was written. But even if Kong Mingming didn't say anything, Lin Yi didn't plan on going against House Kong. House Kang's medical company was completely shut down, and there was no conflict of interest with Lin Yi. As long as Xiaolong kept his word and stopped using Xinyan's family as her fiancé, Lin Yi naturally wouldn't do anything to him. Lin Yi had Xiao Xiao's background, but Lin Yi knew his place best. His relationship with the Ice Palace was very subtle. Bingtang didn't think much of Lin Yi. Lin Yi could borrow the Ice Palace's name, but it wasn't practical for her to actually help Lin Yi. So Lin Yi didn't have any advantage against the Sky Elixir sect. Naturally, Lin Yi wouldn't do something so strenuous and unrewarding. After learning that Kong Mingming had left, Lin Yi told Chuntian and Zhuang Niadeo to protect Meng Yao and the others. He then went to Boss Bai and asked for a day off, preparing to go to Snowy Valley. Meng Yao, Yushu, and Xinyan were helpless. They didn't think that Xinyan's plan would only buy them a day. Lin Yi still had to go to Snowy Valley. That night after school, Lin Yi, Meng Yao, Yushu, Xinyan, Han Jingjing, and the others returned to the villa. Lin Yi started packing his luggage, preparing to go to Snowy Valley. Kong Xiaobo had just returned from Snowy Valley, and Lin Yi was preparing to go there again. One in front and one in back, it was quite dramatic. Shield bro, after you get that jade orchid grass, come back soon. I miss you so much. Yushu stood at the door and said to Lin Yi reluctantly. She was sent by Meng Yao and Xinyan to talk to Lin Yi. Others wouldn't be able to say something like this out loud, but she was the only one who could do it. Yeah, I'll come back as soon as I get the jade orchid grass. Lin Yi nodded with a smile. Let's not mention the fact that Xian Yan's still waiting for me to treat her at home. Even if I wanted to stay a few more days, the people from Snow Valley probably wouldn't let me. They don't even know me. Yeah, even if they let you stay a few more days, Shield Bro has to come back. Otherwise, Shu will miss you too much and lose weight. You won't have big breasts anymore, and you won't look good anymore. Yushu said. Meng Yao rolled her eyes and kicked Yushu. I really hope your breasts are thinner. Yao Yao, you're just jealous. Yushu didn't think much of it. I'll give you a liposuction in the middle of the night. Meng Yao's face was green with anger. Haha, Lin Yi, it seems like you really need to come back soon. Otherwise, Yao Yao and Shu will fight because of you. Xinyan laughed. Lin Yi found it odd that the three girls were trying so hard to get him to stay, trying to convince him to come back as soon as possible. This was something that had never happened before. Whether he went to the tomb or Songshan, they only told him to be careful. But Lin Yi didn't think much about it. He didn't have any reason to suspect anything. He could only assume that the three girls thought it was a long journey and didn't want Lin Yi to stay outside. Alright, I'll be going then. You guys go back and rest. Lin Yi waved at them and got in the car. He drove to Snowy Valley according to the coordinates old Lin gave him. A day after Lin Yi left, a call came from the Snowy Valley. However, the caller wasn't Tang Yun but Mrs. Tang. Hello? Yao Yao, it's Auntie Wang. Yujia didn't know that Lin Yi had already left for Snowy Valley. She thought that Lin Yi was at home, so she lowered her voice when she called Meng Yao. Auntie Wang? Meng Yao, on the other hand, was startled. She couldn't remember who this Auntie Wang was. She knew her name right away, but her voice was a little unfamiliar. It's Yun Yun's mom. Yujia seemed to have realized this as well. She quickly explained. Lin Yi isn't with you, is he? Ah, it's you, Auntie. Meng Yao was surprised and happy. I was just about to look for you. Where's Tang Yun? Is she here? Why is it you calling? Kong Xiaobo came earlier. He told me to tell Yun Yun that you were looking for her, but Yun Yun doesn't have a chance to contact the outside world right now. The Grand Elder is forcing her to train hard, not allowing her to contact the outside world. Mrs. Tang was helpless as well. She may have been a tyrant in Snowy Valley, but that was under the condition that she didn't cross the Grand Elder's bottom line. Tang Yun was training obediently, and that meant that everything was fine. Otherwise, the Grand Elder wouldn't have been so lenient towards Mrs. Tang. Chapter 2753. Oh? What is it? Mrs. Tang asked. Linny went to Snowy Valley. Mingyao said. What? Linny came? Mrs. Tang was shocked. Why is he here? Did he remember what happened to Yun Yun? Mrs. Tang wanted Linny and Tang Yun to reunite, but she respected Tang Yun's decision, so she was shocked and worried when Linny came to Snowy Valley. No, he didn't. He's actually going to Snowy Valley to ask for medicine, Mingyao said as she told Mrs. Tang about Wang Xinyan. Mrs. Tang knew about Wang Xinyan, and she knew that Tang Yun agreed to be Lin Yi's girlfriend, so she didn't object to it. She let out a breath of relief. It's good that he's not here to cause trouble. With his current strength, he can't go against Snowy Valley. Yeah, so I'll have to trouble you for the rest of the matter, Mingyao said. No problem, leave it to me. Mrs. Tang agreed, but she made a decision in her heart. This time when Lin Yi came, she had to find a chance to take Tang Yun to see Lin Yi. Even if it was just from afar, it was Tang Yun's biggest wish. Mrs. Tang knew how much Tang Yun missed Lin Yi, so even if she couldn't reunite with him, Tang Yun still wanted to see Lin Yi. And one more thing, Lin Yi went to Snowy Valley to trade, and he used a sky-class spiritual weapon. I'm afraid that he'll be at a disadvantage because he's too eager to save Wang Xinyan. Do you think? Mingyao felt that the value of a sky-class spiritual weapon should be higher than the orchid jade grass, but if Lin Yi went to trade, he might be taken advantage of by Snowy Valley. Oh, I see. Don't worry, I won't let him be at a disadvantage. I'll keep an eye on him these few days. If he comes, I'll help him trade. Mrs. Tang agreed immediately. She was the best at this kind of thing. That's good. Thank you, Auntie. Mingyao breathed out in relief. Everything had been settled. She could rest easy now. Hey, there's no need to be so polite. We're all family. Auntie is a spy from the Snow Valley, and she's here to benefit herself at the expense of the public. Don't worry, if Lin Yi can't get anything good, you can ask Auntie, Mrs. Tang said with a smile. Ha ha. Mingyao chuckled as well. She used to think that Mrs. Tang was a snob, a little petty, but now it seemed that she wasn't. Oh right, Auntie, I'll ask Yun Yun to call you. One more thing. Oh? What is it? Mrs. Tang asked. It's like this, there's a guy who came back from overseas. His name is Tang Yuqi. He says he's Tang Yun's cousin, Mingyao said. She told Mrs. Tang about Tang Yuqi's situation in detail. Tang Yuqi? I'll ask old Tang and Tang Yun about this. After all, he might come all the way to Snow Valley. We need Yun Yun to make a decision, Mrs. Tang said. And sure. Give me a call when you've made a decision, Mingyao said. No problem, it's very convenient for me to make calls, Mrs. Tang said. Lin Yi's jeep drove into Snow Valley. Lin Yi's speed was faster than Kong Xiaobo's, and he didn't need to rest. He drove day and night until he reached his destination. This is Snow Valley's territory. If you are a traveler or an explorer, please stop. Lin Yi's car had just entered when a patrolling disciple ran over and stopped in front of Lin Yi's jeep, signaling for Lin Yi to stop. The disciple's tone was polite, but there was an irresistible authority in it. Are we finally here? Lin Yi looked at the vast expanse of whiteness outside the window. He felt like he was in an ice palace. These two places were quite similar. Lin Yi opened the window, and a gust of cold wind blew into his face. But this was nothing to Lin Yi. Lin Yi said politely to the disciple, Hello, this is Snow Valley, right? I'm not a traveler, but a practitioner. I'm here to trade for treasures. Oh, you're a practitioner too? Are you here to exchange for treasures? The patrolling disciple was taken aback for a moment, then nodded and said, Then please come with me. The process was surprisingly smooth, and Lin Yi was a little surprised. It seemed like Snow Valley was a sect that did business. He could use this reason to tell the truth. If it was the Ice Palace, he would have been rejected already. Oh, you're a practitioner too? You're here to trade for treasures? The patrolling disciple was slightly taken aback, and then he nodded and said, "Then please wait here and allow me to report it." With that, the patrolling disciple tossed a piece of paper at Lin Yi's car, sticking it to the windshield. Patrolling Disciple 22, waiting to report, was written on it, with an indecipherable symbol that looked like a snowy mountain beside it. After he stuck the note, he quickly left, leaving Lin Yi to wait on the spot. Since the disciple agreed to report, Lin Yi returned to the car and waited patiently for the disciple's news. It wasn't long before the patrolling disciple came back quickly. "You're in luck, the Grand Elder is free today. If you need anything, just tell her. She has the highest authority in the valley, and she's the one who has the highest authority in the valley. Usually the elders are on duty. Today, it's the Great Elder's turn." "Okay, thank you." Lin Yi quickly cupped his fists. The disciple didn't say anything else. He waved his hand and signaled for Lin Yi to follow him. The entire process was surprisingly smooth. Lin Yi was a little surprised. It seemed like Snow Valley was a sect that did business. They agreed to trade for treasures. If it was the Ice Palace, they would have been rejected. Lin Yi followed the patrolling disciple to the guest room. Lin Yi parked the car at the door and followed the disciple into the guest room. The disciple said, "Please wait for a moment. Our Great Elder will be here soon." "It's okay. I'll wait here." Lin Yi nodded. After a while, a middle-aged woman came to the guest room. Usually, the elder on duty would be in charge of receiving cultivators who came to the Snow Valley to trade. However, the Grand Supreme Elder happened to be doing his routine inspection today, so he personally came to take a look. Chapter 2754. How about this, a water element sky class weapon and a herb? I'll trade it for your mist element sky class weapon. What do you think? You're getting quite the bargain this way. HM. Lin Yi nodded, not trying to bargain anymore. The Grand Elder was right, it looked like Shuagu was getting the better end of the deal, getting a sky class weapon that suited them, but at the end of the day it was still Lin Yi who was getting the better end of the deal. It was the same sky class weapon, and with a herb Lin Yi had gotten a herb for free. Xiao Xiao was just a cover, and Lin Yi didn't dare push Shuagu too hard. This outcome was already very satisfying for Lin Yi. He nodded. "You have the jade orchid grass here, right?" "Yes." The Supreme Elder nodded his head. "Since I've agreed to it, I can use it to exchange with you. But what I want to tell you is that although the value of this orchid mustard jade grass isn't as high as a heaven-ranked divine weapon, it's still a good item. No matter how serious your injuries are, as long as you're still breathing, you can use it to prolong your life." Oh. Lin Yi didn't expect the jade orchid grass to have such a miraculous effect. Old Lin had only said that Xinyan needed it, but he didn't say what it did. Hearing this now, Lin Yi suddenly remembered that if Han Jingjing had had something like this, he could have eaten it after his injuries, and he wouldn't have been in such a dangerous situation. This was good stuff. Especially when he was away from home, and if an enemy came to attack, he'd be able to buy some time with it. "How long can it prolong your life?" Lin Yi asked. "You're here for the jade orchid grass, but you don't know what it does?" The Grand Elder was a bit confused, but he still answered. "Depending on the level and the injury, the time varies from a few days to a few months." Oh. Lin Yi nodded. But this didn't have much to do with him. This herb was going to be given to Xinyan after he got back. Even if it could prolong her life, it wouldn't be of much use. "Are we exchanging now? A stalk of orchid mustard jade grass and a water-type heaven-ranked divine weapon in exchange for your mist attribute heaven-ranked divine weapon?" the Supreme Elder asked. Just as Lin Yi was about to agree, a lion's roar came from the door of the reception room. "No!" Then, a middle-aged woman rushed into the reception room and stood in front of Lin Yi. He shouted, "You can't change it! You can't change it! You are!" Lin Yi was stunned as he looked at the middle-aged woman who had rushed in. Who was this person? How did he get here? It was none other than Mrs. Tang. The Grand Elder stared at her in astonishment. He thought to himself, who told her that? Today, he had personally received her without the approval of the elders of the valley. There was no way Mrs. Tang could have been a spy, and no one could have tipped her off. Of course, no one tipped Mrs. Tang off. Mrs. Tang had talked to Meng Yao on the phone before. She knew that Lin Yi would arrive in the valley in a few days, so she would go to the reception room every day to see if Lin Yi had arrived. As a result, Mrs. Tang came to visit again today. She heard that the Grand Elder wanted to exchange something with Lin Yi, so she didn't care and roared to stop Lin Yi from doing the exchange. "Oh, I'm the inspector of the valley. My job is to monitor the unfair things that happen in the valley." Mrs. Tang paused, but immediately realized that Lin Yi probably didn't know her. After taking the senseless grass, Lin Yi would forget everything that happened with Tang Yun. Other than Tang Yun, Mrs. Tang didn't have any contact with Lin Yi. Naturally, Lin Yi didn't know her, so she made up an identity. "Inspector?" Lin Yi paused. What kind of position was that? Why did it sound like a spy? However, Lin Yi didn't need to study the personnel system in the valley. Then do you think that this exchange is unfair?" "Of course it's unfair, it's unfair," Mrs. Tang said indignantly. How is it unfair?" Lin Yi was speechless. He just gotten the Grand Elder to agree on the terms and conditions, and now there was this watcher. Was it fated that he could only trade a sky-class weapon for a single herb? "Young man, you're losing big time." Mrs. Tang picked up the misty heaven-grade weapon from the tea table and said, "This is good stuff. You're making a huge loss by only exchanging it for a stalk of orchid jade grass and a water-type heaven-grade weapon." Lin Yi was shocked. He thought that Mrs. Tang felt that the valley was losing out and wanted to stop the trade. He didn't think that she would say that he was losing out. Lin Yi didn't understand. Was this person telling the truth or was she joking? "You can exchange it for a broken herb? That's too little." Mrs. Tang shook her head and said, "According to what I know, a batch of orchid mustard jade grass just matured a while ago. There are a total of 4 stalks. How can you only exchange for one? In my opinion, if you want to trade, you'll need at least 4 stalks of orchid mustard jade grass and a water-type heaven-ranked divine weapon." Ugh! Lin Yi was a bit confused. He turned to look at the Grand Elder. The Grand Elder was furious. Did Lin Yi think that the orchid jade grass was something that could be found on the streets? It took decades for a batch to mature, and this time only 4 matured. Although she still had some in stock, she didn't want to give up 4 at once. "Grand Elder, am I right? Don't you think that's fair?" Mrs. Tang turned to the Grand Elder with a grin on her face. "Barely fair, of course it's barely fair." The Grand Elder was so angry that smoke was coming out of her head. She really wanted to kick Mrs. Tang out, but it was just a fantasy. She didn't dare do anything to Mrs. Tang. If anything happened to Mrs. Tang, Tang Yun might give up on her training. Rock Candy might even come to Shuegu. Not only could the valley not do anything to Mrs. Tang, they had to protect her. If she accidentally broke her leg, then Shuegu would be like yellow mud falling into her pants. Even if it wasn't shit, it was shit. Shuegu couldn't tell the difference. Although the Grand Elder was helpless, she could only say that it was fair. Chapter 2755. Plus, she could enter and leave the valley as she pleased, entering the guest room and interrupting the conversation between the Grand Elder and the guest without being stopped by the other disciples. Could it be that this position was a very powerful one? Mrs. Tang's strength came entirely from the pills she consumed. She had eaten quite a lot of the Snowy Valley's soul-gathering pills, and small chi-gathering pills. Her goal wasn't to gain strength, but to live a few more years with Tang Yun and rob the Snowy Valley for a few more years. Then should we trade now? Lin Yi asked. "Let's trade now." The Grand Elder nodded. "Oh, then you guys trade, I'm leaving." Mrs. Tang saw that Lin Yi had come and naturally rushed to find Tang Yun. She knew that after the Grand Elder and Lin Yi exchanged things, he would tell Lin Yi to leave as soon as possible. So Mrs. Tang had to hurry. With that, Mrs. Tang left on her own, not even bothering to look at the Grand Elder. Lin Yi was even more shocked. Wasn't she looking down on the Grand Elder too much? After Mrs. Tang left, the Grand Elder let out a sigh of relief and said to Lin Yi, "Let's go, Mr. Lin. Come with me to the treasury and get the things we want to trade?" Grand Elder Zhao guessed that Mrs. Tang was probably going to find Tang Yun, so how could she let Lin Yi stay in the guest room? She wanted to follow Lin Yi to the treasury and complete the trade. Then, she would personally send Lin Yi out of the valley to avoid any contact with Tang Yun. Originally, only elders and above could enter the Snow Valley's treasury, let alone outsiders. But the Grand Elder had to bring him along in order to keep an eye on Lin Yi. All right, Grand Elder, that Snowy Valley Patrol, what's his position? Lin Yi asked, a little confused. He seems pretty strong. Ahem. The Grand Elder coughed twice, not knowing how to explain. She's someone we can't afford to offend. Forget it, let's not talk about her. Her position is very special. Let's hurry to the treasury. Okay. Lin Yi saw that the highest elder was unwilling to say more, so he did not ask further. After all, this was the internal affairs of the Snow Valley, and it was not appropriate for an outsider like him to say much. After Mrs. Tang left the guest room, she ran straight to Tang Yun's training room. The disciple on duty didn't dare stop her and let her in. Tang Yun had just finished her practice when she heard footsteps. She opened her eyes and saw Mrs. Tang. Mom, why are you here? Let's go, Yun. Mom's taking you to see someone, Mrs. Tang said as she pulled Tang Yun's hand towards the door. Ah, who are you looking at? Tang Yun was confused. What was wrong with her mother today? He had rushed here in such a hurry, and before they had even said a few words, he had already pulled her out. You'll know when we get there. We won't be able to make it if we wait any longer. Mrs. Tang was planning to give Tang Yun a surprise. Okay. Tang Yun was pulled by her mother as they ran. You stop. Mrs. Tang walked for a while, originally heading for the guest room. But she suddenly stopped and pointed at a patrolling disciple. Ah! The disciple was shocked and quickly stopped. Who in the Snow Valley didn't know Mrs. Tang? Those who didn't know Tang Yun also knew Mrs. Tang. Oh, it's Aunt Wang. What's the matter? I'm asking you, did you see the Grand Elder? Mrs. Tang asked. The patrolling disciple did see the Grand Elder, but he didn't have the right to discuss the whereabouts of the Grand Elder. He hesitated and didn't answer. You don't want to talk? You don't want to live in the Snow Valley anymore? Mrs. Tang glared at him angrily. I'm sure you've heard of the rumors about me in the Snow Valley. They said that they would rather offend the Valley Master, Sydney, than offend Aunt Wang. I think you want to offend me, right? Do you believe that I won't kick you out right now? The patrolling disciple was sweating profusely. Hurry up and tell me. If someone blames you, I'll make sure you're fine. Just push the blame onto me. Mrs. Tang humphed. Yes, I saw the Grand Elder. She went to the treasury. The patrolling disciple sighed in relief after hearing Mrs. Tang's promise. Oh, did she go alone or with someone else? Mrs. Tang continued. With a young man, the disciple replied honestly. All right, you can go now. Mrs. Tang waved her hand, signaling the disciple to leave. The patrolling disciple felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. He wiped the cold sweat off his forehead and quickly left. Old thing, I knew you were up to no good. Let's go, Tang Yun, let's go to the treasury. Mrs. Tang waved her hand and brought Tang Yun to the treasury. Mom, what are you talking about? What old thing? What's up to no good? Tang Yun didn't know what her mother was talking about. Oh, don't worry about it. Just follow me, Mrs. Tang said. Oh. Tang Yun nodded and followed her mother. Mr. Lin, this is the treasury of the Snowy Valley. After you enter, don't move around. I hope you understand. The Grand Elder spoke politely to Lin Yi because he didn't want any unnecessary conflict. He quickly gave him the things and told him to leave. It would be bad if he met Tang Yun in the Snowy Valley. All right. Lin Yi understood. This was an ancient sect's treasury. It was good enough that he was allowed to enter. He wouldn't be so ignorant as to touch it. The Grand Elder took out the water element heaven-class weapon from the treasury, and 4 stalks of orchid jade grass. The things are here, Mr. Lin, please take a look. If it's possible, leave your mist element heaven-class weapon behind, and I'll send you out of the valley. All right. Lin Yi felt like the Grand Elder was chasing him away. It was as if he couldn't wait to finish the deal and leave. However, the Grand Elder was polite and didn't break the deal. Lin Yi didn't care too much. The Grand Elder could do whatever he wanted. He might have other things to do later. After all, the Grand Elder of a sect had many things to do. He couldn't use all of them to receive cultivators who wanted to trade for treasures. Lin Yi quickly checked the items the Grand Elder brought over. There shouldn't be any mistakes. He nodded. No problem. It was a pleasure trading. Chapter 2756. All right, thank you. Linny nodded. The two of them exited the treasury and walked back the way they came, but after a few steps, the Grand Elder's expression changed. Not far from them, Mrs. Tang and Tang Yun were walking towards them. The Grand Elder's footsteps paused, puzzling Lin Yi. He raised his head to see that Snowy Valley watcher who'd helped him walk over to him, with a girl in white beside her. She didn't have any makeup on, but that pure beauty made Lin Yi's heart skip a beat. He felt an inexplicable feeling in his heart. When Lin Yi looked at Tang Yun also saw Lin Yi. Her beautiful face flashed with excitement, and a thin layer of mist appeared in her eyes. She immediately lowered her head, afraid that her strange behavior would arouse Lin Yi's curiosity. Tang Yun never thought that the person her mother brought her to see was Lin Yi. Why did he come to the Snow Valley? What was he doing here? But it didn't seem like he was looking for her, because at this moment, Tang Yun could feel that Lin Yi didn't know her. What a strange girl. Lin Yi saw Tang Yun lower her head and wondered what was wrong with her. He wanted to take a closer look, but the Grand Elder grabbed Lin Yi's hand and said, "Mr. Lin, let's go." Oh. Lin Yi was pulled far away by the Grand Elder. The Grand Elder was a master at the peak of the late stage of heaven class, so Lin Yi didn't have any intention of resisting. Even if he did, he wouldn't be able to stop. However, the girl's image seemed to be carved into his heart, and he couldn't get it out of his head. He wanted to see the girl's face clearly, so he turned around and saw that the girl had also turned around and was looking at him. Their eyes met, but Lin Yi's heart palpitated. It was as if he had seen this beautiful girl in his previous life. Otherwise, Lin Yi would not have lost his composure after seeing so many beauties. In fact, Lin Yi still couldn't see the girl's face clearly, because just as Lin Yi was stunned, the girl lowered her head again. Could this be the so-called love at first sight? Lin Yi was confused. He had never felt this kind of love at first sight before. The girl was getting further and further away from Lin Yi's eyes, turning into a small black dot before he could no longer see her. The Grand Elder had pulled him away. Grand Elder, who's the girl next to the inspector? Lin Yi turned around and asked curiously. He'd even forgotten to check out the girl's strength. The Grand Elder's expression changed slightly, and he said solemnly, "Mr. Lin, don't you think that your words are a bit rash? Who she is an internal matter of our sect. I have no obligation to answer Shuegu's secrets. This has nothing to do with you, you are only here to exchange for something. Now that you have it, leave quickly." "I'm sorry." Lin Yi shook his head, thinking that he had indeed been rash. Shuegu had no obligation to tell him who this person was, and even if he knew who she was, it had nothing to do with him. It was taboo for him to pry into someone else's sect in private, so Lin Yi let it go. Tang Yun raised her head, tears streaming down her face. She stared at Lin Yi's back and direction, clenching her fists, her body trembling uncontrollably. Yun, he's gone, let's go back." Mrs. Tang sighed, not sure if it was the right decision to bring Tang Yun here. Tang Yun nodded. "Thank you, Mom. I just took one look at him and knowing that he's doing well is enough." He came to Shuegu this time to exchange for something. With that, Mrs. Tang told Tang Yun about Lin Yi's purpose for coming here. When Tang Yun heard her mother say that under her interference, the Grand Elder agreed to give Lin Yi 4 stalks of jade orchid grass, she couldn't help but laugh. "Mom, I want to see him one more time." Tang Yun didn't want to leave. Lin Yi should have left Shuegu by now, but Shuegu was a naturally formed depression. As long as one stood on the highest peak of the valley, they would be able to see Lin Yi. "Then go." Mrs. Tang supported Tang Yun. Mrs. Tang was very supportive of Tang Yun. "If you want to go, then go. I'll be here. Don't worry, if that old geezer comes looking for you, I'll cover for you." "And thank you, Mom." Tang Yun was very happy. She used to think that her mother was controlling everything and giving her random ideas which annoyed her a little. But now she knew how good her mother was to her. No need to be so polite with Mom. Mrs. Tang smiled. Tang Yun jumped up and disappeared from Mrs. Tang's sight, floating to the highest edge of the valley. Tang Yun was now in early phase of sky class, and because she received the inheritance, her path of training was unimpeded. There were no barriers or obstacles and she went all the way to sky class. Tang Yun didn't need to use any medicine to get to sky class, and this was naturally because of the benefits of the inheritance. Of course, because she came from an ancient sect, Tang Yun knew a lot more. Only by practicing heartless arts to the highest level could one reach sky class late phase peak. The Grand Elder also practiced heartless arts, but because she didn't reach the highest level, her strength was only at sky class late phase peak, not sky class late phase peak. But to advance to the heavenly Tao, according to legend, only sky class late phase peak had a higher chance. Normal sky class late phase peak had little hope. And this wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was that if the inheritor wanted to do that big thing, he had to have the strength of sky class late phase peak to have the ability to protect himself, or else there was a high chance of danger. Mr. Lin, I will send you here. You can leave now. The Grand Elder sent Lin Yi to the entrance of the valley, and then made a gesture of invitation to Lin Yi. Okay, Grand Elder, please go back. Thank you for sending me off. Lin Yi cupped his fists and said politely. The highest elder nodded, then turned around and returned to the Snow Valley. However, he whispered to the Snow Valley disciple who was patrolling at the door. Keep an eye on him, don't let him come in again. If he comes in again, inform me immediately. Yes. The patrolling disciple quickly responded. The Grand Elder was afraid that Lin Yi would return, so she specially reminded him. But what she didn't expect was that Tang Yun would take the initiative to leave the valley and look at Lin Yi again. Chapter 2757. Instead, he said to Zhao Yazi in the space of the jade pendant, Zhao Lao, is this the birthplace of the fog element? If I stay here, will I be able to inherit the power of the mist origin? Well, it should be possible. Zhao Yazi nodded after listening and said, in theory, you should go to the birthplace of the power to accept the inheritance. Then, can I accept the inheritance now? What should I do in order to accept the inheritance? Lin Yi thought that since he had come to the Snow Valley, it was best to accept the inheritance here. If he could accept the inheritance, it would be great. It would save him the trouble of coming again in the future. How do I know? Zhao Yazi shook his head and said, to accept the inheritance, you need to prepare a lot of things. My memory hasn't been unlocked, so I don't know. It should not be the time yet. If you are in a hurry, you can find a way to accept the inheritance yourself. You don't know? It's such a trap. Lin Yi was speechless. Zhao Yazi didn't know how to accept the inheritance. Didn't I come here for nothing? And the worst thing is, what should I do in the future? How long do I have to wait to become a blacksmith and condense the jade pendant? Is this jade pendant a trap? If I jump into it, I won't be able to come out? I remember that blacksmiths don't have to circulate the attributes in the body, right? Then why do I have to turn all of them into real attributes? Lin Yi asked unwillingly. You don't have to circulate, but all of them are virtual attributes. You can't become a blacksmith. Among the 3 attributes, at least 2 of them are real attributes. Only then can you become a blacksmith. Otherwise, do you think it's so easy to become a blacksmith? Any ordinary person can become one by taking 3 elixirs? Zhao Yazi said with disdain. Then blacksmiths are everywhere. That's true. Lin Yi was stunned. He blamed himself for thinking too simply. Zhao Yazi was right. If all the blacksmiths were virtual, wouldn't there be blacksmiths everywhere? With some regret, Lin Yi shook his head and prepared to leave in his car. However, he suddenly had a feeling that he was being watched. Lin Yi turned his head and keenly discovered that there was a person standing above the valley in the distance. She looked just like the beautiful woman beside the inspector of the Snow Valley. Lin Yi was a bit surprised and felt that something was strange. He stretched out his hand and waved at the girl. Tang Yun didn't think that Lin Yi would suddenly turn around and look at her. She was shocked. She just wanted to stand there and look at Lin Yi quietly. She didn't want Lin Yi to notice her. However, she suddenly remembered that she was standing very far away. Lin Yi definitely couldn't see her clearly. So Tang Yun smiled lightly at Lin Yi. Her smiling face was like a snow lotus in the wind. It was gentle and beautiful. It formed a sharp contrast with her cold appearance. Only when facing Lin Yi, Tang Yun was passionate. At other times she was cold in the Snow Valley. Even in front of the Grand Elder, Tang Yun was still cold. That faint smile was like a sharp sword, piercing into Lin Yi's heart. Although he couldn't see the girl's face clearly, this smile made Lin Yi feel that it was especially beautiful. The coldness of the snow mountain seemed to melt in an instant. However, after the smile, the girl flashed away, leaving only the empty snow mountain and the beautiful imagination in Lin Yi's mind. Lin Yi shook his head and got into the car. He drove away from the snow valley. He thought of Wang Xinyan's illness and temporarily put the girl at the back of his mind. Love at first sight couldn't compare to the feelings between him and Wang Xinyan. He had to rush back as soon as possible. Lin Yi's car drove on the way back. Tang Yun returned to her training room. From now on, the two of them might not meet again. Tang Yun saw the current Lin Yi. Although she missed him, she was satisfied. The car drove quickly on the deserted road. However, suddenly, not far from Lin Yi's car, two people appeared. Two people dressed in black. Screech! Lin Yi quickly stepped on the brakes and stopped the car. There was a trace of coldness on these two people's faces. What made Lin Yi frown the most was that these two people were early-stage heaven-class masters. Even if Lin Yi crashed into them with his car, he wouldn't be able to get away with it. Who knows, they might just use a martial arts technique to destroy his car. Bad intentions. This was Lin Yi's first thought because the two people clearly didn't hide their strength. Instead, they showed their full strength as early-stage heaven-class masters. They stood in the middle of the road in a domineering manner. It was obvious that they were here to stop Lin Yi's car. Good people don't come. But Lin Yi was a little puzzled. When did he offend such an enemy? Lin Yi had never seen these two before, be it in terms of appearance or attire. He didn't know where these two came from, and most importantly, why were they on his way home from the snowy valley? If they wanted to cause trouble, why didn't they go to Songshan City or Donghai City? Or could it be that these two people were originally blocking the road to rob, standing here and randomly robbing cultivators who were returning from the snow valley? The last possibility was very high. After all, most of the cultivators who went to the snow valley were there to exchange for treasures. There were two heaven-ranked rogue cultivators who were blocking the road and robbing them. It was reasonable for them to steal some good stuff. Lin Yi took a deep breath and got out of the car. It was useless for Lin Yi to run away with his car. After all, they weren't slower than the car. So, Lin Yi could only choose to run on foot or fight them. But now it seemed that Lin Yi didn't want to leave the car and run on foot. After all, there was a heaven-class divine weapon in the car and 4 spiritual herbs for Wang Xinyan's treatment. If Lin Yi ran, what if these things were taken away? Moreover, in Lin Yi's subconscious, these two people were here to rob him. So Lin Yi couldn't run away at all. However, if Lin Yi wanted to run away, he was confident that he could. They were only 2 heaven-class masters, and their strength wasn't that far apart. When Lin Yi was at the mystic class, his speed was almost the same as Rock Candy. Relying on his qinggong, he could barely catch up to Rock Candy. Now that Lin Yi was stronger, his qinggong was naturally better. It wasn't hard to escape from these 2 heaven-class masters. What are you two doing? Lin Yi looked at the 2 people in front of him coldly. Don't you know what we are doing? One of the 2 heaven-class masters with short hair snorted and sneered. Don't tell me you don't know us. Chapter 2758. Oh? You know about the ethereal attribute? Lin Yi was surprised. He thought that Zhao Yazi would say that he didn't know. He didn't expect Zhao Yazi to say that he did. I know. Zhao Yazi nodded. The ethereal attribute in your body must turn into substantial attribute. Only then can you reach the 2nd stage of the art of dragon mastery. What? There's such a situation? Why didn't you say so earlier? Lin Yi was surprised. He suddenly thought of his 2nd stage of the art of dragon mastery. Logically speaking, with his speed, he should have reached substantial attribute by now. However, he didn't. Lin Yi thought that it was because he didn't reach the right time. He didn't expect that it was because of the ethereal attribute in his body. You didn't ask me, how am I supposed to tell you? Zhao Yazi looked like he wouldn't tell you if you didn't ask. This made Lin Yi very angry. However, thinking about it, he didn't enter the space of the jade pendant for more than 10 years. Zhao Yazi didn't help him either. Lin Yi felt helpless. He already knew Zhao Yazi's personality. Lin Yi could only say, I thought I could reach the 2nd stage substantial attribute. That's impossible. Once you reach substantial attribute, you can refine jade pendants. Your body is full of ethereal attribute. There's no way you can become a blacksmith. How are you going to refine jade pendants? Are you dreaming? Zhao Yazi said disdainfully. Oh. Linny felt like cursing. If it weren't for the fact that Elder Zhao had helped him a lot, and that he respected the old and loved the young, he would have gone up and scolded Elder Zhao a long time ago. Look at me trying to find a way to change my ethereal attribute like a headless fly. Are you looking at a joke? However, Linny still asked patiently, then how can I turn the ethereal attribute into substantial attribute? You'll have to figure it out yourself. Zhao Yazi shook his head. I don't have any relevant information in my memory. Gosh, if I can't turn the virtual attribute into a solid attribute, doesn't that mean I'll never be able to step foot into the second level of the mental cultivation method? Linny was a little speechless. Isn't this a trap? Nope. How long has it been since you opened the second level stone door? You want to advance to the second level and open the third level stone door? Aren't you a little too impatient? Zhao Yazi said. You have to know, how long did it take you to open the first stone door to the second stone door? Moreover, there's still a 5-year deadline. The third level is gone and you're still so anxious? That's true. Linny thought about it carefully. He had just opened the stone door of the second floor not too long ago. He was indeed a little impatient. However, turning the ethereal attribute into substantial attribute was a troublesome matter. He still had to accept the origin inheritance one by one. Right now, the only place that Linny knew was the Ice Palace. Did he have to go there again to accept the inheritance? You don't have to worry too much about this. Sometimes, problems can be solved without you even realizing it. Zhao Yazi explained. All right, I'll continue. Linny nodded. No matter what, strength was the most important. Tonight Linny planned to use the 8th form of the fiery 8 trigrams palm. His strength had already reached the late phase of Earth class. In theory, he could use the 8th form or even the 9th form of the fiery 8 trigrams palm. When Linny used the 7th form, he could instantly kill an early phase heaven class warrior. When he used the 8th and 9th form, if his chi could keep up, he should be able to instantly kill a peak early phase heaven class warrior or even a mid phase heaven class warrior. However, Linny couldn't say how powerful it was without trying it out. He didn't know what form his body's limit was. But without a doubt, the higher the level, the harder it was to use. Once he used it, he would lose all his strength. Although it looked like an Earth-class martial art, it was actually a Heaven-class martial art. Feeling that his body was full, Linny started to try using the 8th form of the fiery 8 trigrams palm. It was equivalent to a normal Heaven-class martial art, the 14th form. According to the previous method, Linny first prepared to use the fiery fist. Only when he was familiar with the 8th and 9th form of the fiery fist would he be able to use the more powerful fiery 8 trigrams palm. Obviously, the fiery fist was not difficult for Linny to use. Linny started from the first form of the fiery fist, moving like clouds and flowing water. The 7th form, the 8th form, then the 9th form all in one go. Phew! Linny was very satisfied with the fiery fist that he used. Next, Linny used the 8th and 9th forms of the fiery fist alone. He could use them perfectly without any hindrance. It seemed that the fiery fist that had not been modified was relatively easy to use. After activating the 8th and 9th forms of the frenzy fist, Linny tried to see if he could activate the 10th form. He started with the first form all the way to the 8th form, the 9th form. The 10th form failed. It seemed that the 9th form was the limit of the late phase Earth class. The 10th form could only be used when he was at the peak of the late phase Earth class. Linny was not surprised. After all, he was just trying it out. He did not think that he would succeed. After using the fiery fist, Linny started to use the fiery 8 trigrams palm. He used the mantra of the fiery fist and the method of the 5 elements 8 trigrams palm to form the 8th form of the fiery 8 trigrams palm. Linny would not easily try to use the fiery 8 trigrams palm from the first form to the 8th form unless he had no other choice. From the first form to the 7th form, Linny felt that his stamina was very tight. This was not a normal amount of stamina, so Linny could only use the 8th form alone. What made Linny happy was that the 8th form of the fiery 8 trigrams palm was successfully used. Its power was much stronger than the previous 7th form. Linny even felt that using the 8th form to ambush a mid-phase heaven class wouldn't be a problem. However, after using the 8th form of the fiery 8 trigrams palm, Linny felt as if his stamina had been sucked dry. He almost couldn't stand straight and fell to the ground. Although this move is powerful, it seems that I can't use it so easily. Linny smiled bitterly as he sat cross-legged on the ground. He quickly entered the jade space and began to recover his stamina. After using this move, Linny no longer had the strength to use any more moves. Chapter 2759. But how cunning was the Grand Elder? She walked into the room quietly and looked at Linny. She said faintly, "You're the practitioner who came to the valley to trade for treasures, right?" "That's right." Linny cupped his fists and said politely, "You're the Grand Elder, right?" The person in front of him was a sky-class late-phase peak, and Linny guessed that she was the Grand Elder the patrolling disciple was talking about. "That's right." The Grand Elder nodded and said to the patrolling disciple, "Go make some tea, I'll talk to this practitioner." "Yes, Grand Elder." The patrolling disciple hurriedly replied. "Haha, what's your name?" The Grand Elder asked Linny. "Linny." Linny didn't hide it, his identity wasn't a secret in the ancient world anymore. There was no need to hide it. "This is my first time here, please forgive me, Grand Elder. But I'm here because my wife Feng Xiaoxiao introduced me here. She's the vice-sect master of the Ice Palace." Linny brought up Xiaoxiao's identity, naturally because he didn't want to lose out in the trade. After all, his identity wasn't on the same level as the Snow Valley, and if he asked for the herb directly, a sky-class weapon would only be able to trade for one herb. Linny brought up Xiaoxiao's identity to let the Grand Elder know that he had a background as well, and hoped that she wouldn't take it by force. Of course, Linny didn't know that the Grand Elder knew him from the start, and knew his background. Even without Xiaoxiao's background, the Grand Elder wouldn't lie to Linny. Yun and Mrs. Tang were here, after all. "Oh, so you're a friend introduced by the Ice Palace." The Grand Elder smiled, feeling relieved. It seemed like Linny wasn't here for Tang Yun, and as long as he wasn't here for Tang Yun, everything would be fine. "I wonder what Mr. Lin would like to exchange this time?" "Well, I do have some things that I want to exchange, but I only know that you have one thing. As for the other things, I don't know. So, please take a look at my things, then you can decide what you want to exchange." Linny said. "Your things?" The Great Elder was slightly stunned. He thought that Linny was here to ask for elixirs. He didn't expect that Linny would take out an item for him to appraise. This made the Great Elder a little curious. What good item did he have? Of course. As Linny spoke, he took out the heaven-grade weapon that belonged to the founder of the Snow Valley, Snow Fairy, and placed it on the tea table in front of him. "Grand Elder, please have a look." "Oh, The Great Elder didn't think much of it at first, but when her eyes landed on the weapon that Linny took out, she couldn't move her eyes away. Her face was filled with shock and disbelief. This could it be? As the Great Elder spoke, she picked up the heaven-grade weapon from the tea table. When she saw the small snow character on the weapon, as well as the unique symbol of the Snow Valley, the Great Elder's hands trembled with excitement. Linny had already expected this reaction from the Great Elder. After all, this heaven-grade weapon originally belonged to the Snow Valley. As the successor of the Snow Valley, it would be strange if the Great Elder wasn't excited to see the weapon of the founder of the Snow Valley. "What do you think, Great Elder? Is this something good?" Linny smiled. "Yes, this is it. This is the heaven-grade weapon of the founder." The Great Elder's voice changed. She cultivated the emotionless tactics, so it was rare for anything to make her emotional. But at this moment, she couldn't control her emotions. Because this matter was too shocking. This really was the heaven-grade weapon of the founder, the heaven-grade weapon that was most compatible with the mist attribute. All these years the Snow Valley had been searching for this weapon, but there was no news of it. This was because after the founder of the Snow Valley said that she was pursuing the heavenly Tao, she never appeared again. No one knew where she went, and no one knew if she was dead or alive. Therefore, there was no news of the heaven-grade weapon. Now that it had appeared in front of the highest elder again, the highest elder was filled with emotions. He was both happy and worried. He was happy that the weapon had finally returned to Shuegu's hands. He was worried that the weapon had appeared alone. Did that mean that Ancestor Shui had failed in her pursuit of the heavenly Tao and had perished? Haha. Great Elder, how is it? What do you want in exchange for this heaven-grade weapon? Linny said with a smile. I was going to give it to my wife Feng Xiaoxiao, but she has a cold body type, and an ice element weapon is the best for her. Mist element weapons can only be used, but they can't be used to their full potential. So, I brought it over to see if I can get something better. If you guys have something better and I think it's worth it, I'll give it to you. If not, then I'll just take it back for Xiao Xiao. Oh. The great elder was speechless after hearing Lin Yi's words. His second wife was his wife, but his first wife wasn't his wife? If you give it to your second wife, you might as well give it to your first wife. Even if I were to exchange this weapon back, it would be for Tang Yun to use. Only in her hands could it display its full potential. However, the Grand Elder couldn't tell the truth. He could only bear with it and said, "Our Snow Valley has a heaven-tier divine weapon of water element. It's also a top-notch item. It's not any worse than this. Why don't I use that to call out to you?" Feng Xiaoxiao trains in the ice element, so mist and water element weapons have the same effect to her. There's not much of a difference, but this mist weapon is very important to our Snow Valley. Supreme Elder, aren't you being too insincere by saying that? Let's not mention the fact that I came all the way here to trade with you. Even if Snow Valley was right in front of my house, you'd be the one taking advantage of me, wouldn't you? Lin Yi shrugged. It doesn't make a difference whether I want the mist or water element. Why would I trade? Plus, if your water weapon isn't as good as the mist one, then I'll be at a disadvantage. You'll be the one taking advantage no matter what. There's no such thing in the world. Chapter 2760. He looked strangely at the two men in black in front of him. From their tone, why did it seem like they were here to seek revenge and not to rob him? Kid, you're pretty good at acting. You killed 3 of our blood-clothed underworld sex masters, but you're acting like nothing happened. You've got quite a strong mentality. I have to say, you're pretty good at acting. The short-haired man mocked. But there's no use in pretending. I have your photo and recognize your car. You're Lin Yi, right? Ah. Lin Yi was even more startled. This person actually knew that his name was Lin Yi? Lin Yi thought that they were just trying to scare him, building a foundation for the rest of the robberies. He didn't think that this person would call out his name right away. Blood-clothed underworld sect? Lin Yi frowned. He had never seen this sect before. Even if he had vaguely heard of them, he had no enmity with them. He didn't know when he provoked such a force. Kid, you're still pretending? The short-haired man looked at Lin Yi's confused face and became a little impatient. There's no use in pretending. I'll kill you today to avenge the lost elites of our sect. The blood-clothed underworld sect had 3 mystic late-phase peak masters who died on the way to assassinate Lin Yi. Of course, they weren't killed by Lin Yi, but by Little Qing. However, Tang Yun was with them, so Lin Yi chose to forget this part of his memory. Lin Yi didn't know that the 3 mystic late-phase peak masters thought that their fellow sect members died in Lin Yi's hands, so they came to find Lin Yi for revenge. Of course, revenge had to follow the rules. The blood-clothed underworld sect was an independent sect that wasn't weaker than the ancient sects, but they still had to abide by the rules. They couldn't kill people in the secular world. Lin Yi didn't leave the mortal world and went to an uninhabited area. The Bloodrobe Yellow Spring sect wouldn't be able to kill Lin Yi as they pleased. Otherwise, they'd be able to ignore the rules and restrictions of the ancient world. And the Bloodrobe Yellow Spring sect was afraid that the other ancient sects would gang up on them. After all, the blood-clothed underworld sect wasn't as strong as the 5 Elements sect or the Everyday and Everyday sect. So even if Lin Yi went to the ancient tomb, they didn't make a move. That place was still within the city area. Only the Snowy Valley was truly uninhabited. Only then would the blood-clothed underworld sect dare to take revenge. Oh! Lin Yi saw that the short-haired man didn't want to explain, so Lin Yi didn't ask anymore. He used the mantra of the Frenzy Fist and used the 7th form of the Frenzy 8 trigrams palm on the short-haired man's chest. Frenzy 8 trigrams palm, 7th form. Bang! There was a loud sound, and the short-haired man was sent flying without any warning. He didn't even make a sound before he landed on the ground, dead. His chest was scorched black, and there was a palm-shaped hole in it. His organs were all burned away. It was a horrifying sight. An early-stage Heaven-class master was killed by Lin Yi without a sound. This stunned the other early-stage Heaven-class master beside the short-haired man. He looked at the scene in front of him and didn't understand. How could this kid be so powerful? Before taking revenge, the Bloodcloth Underworld sect had done a thorough investigation. This was a sect that prioritized profit above all else. If it was difficult to take revenge, they would rather not take revenge. They wouldn't do something so stupid as to harm their own people. Not to mention that Lin Yi could easily kill a Sky-class master. However, according to the investigation, Lin Yi was only an Earth-class master. Although his strength was much higher than when Zhao Qibing hired the assassins, he was still an Earth-class master. 2 early-stage Heaven-class masters surrounded him. Wouldn't it be a piece of cake? Who would have thought that Lin Yi could kill an early-stage Heaven-class master in one move? The other one broke out in a cold sweat and subconsciously reached for his chest. However, in the next moment, Lin Yi's Raging Fire 8 Trigram Palm's 8th style came over. Although the 8th style consumed more energy than the 7th style, Lin Yi couldn't bear to use the 7th style twice in a row. This kind of martial technique that was used to attack the enemy was a world of difference from practicing in the air. Although Lin Yi used up energy in the air, it was definitely not as serious as this. The reason why Lin Yi used the 8th style was because of the continuity. Although it consumed more energy, it could be successfully used. If he took a break for a while, Lin Yi knew that he couldn't use the Raging Fire 8 Trigram Palm again. Even the 7th form wouldn't work. He couldn't use it twice in a row without any gaps. It would be better to use it in one go. Although it would be a bit exhausting, it wouldn't be dangerous. After the other Heaven rank expert died, he could rest as much as he wanted. Therefore, Lin Yi used the 8th style of the Raging Fire 8 Trigram Palm in one go, and directly imprinted it on the chest of the early-stage Heaven-class master. The master's eyes were full of horror and fear. He even forgot to dodge. Before he died, he only shouted, "Lin Yi, kill me!" Then, his voice stopped abruptly. His whole body was sent flying by Lin Yi. His miserable appearance was even worse than the previous short-haired cultivator. There was a huge hole in his entire chest. It had been pierced through, and his clothes were also ignited. After landing on the ground, there was still thick smoke. In fact, this early-stage Heaven-class master could have attacked Lin Yi if he wanted to escape or when Lin Yi killed the short-haired master. However, the first impression made him think that Lin Yi was very powerful, and that he couldn't defeat him. He weakened before the battle and weakened his momentum, which led to the tragedy of him being killed by Lin Yi. After killing 2 early-stage Heaven-class masters, Lin Yi was not very happy. Instead, he collapsed on the ground. His clothes were already soaked. The 7th and 8th style of the Raging Fire 8 Trigram Palm had drained all the energy in Lin Yi's body. There was even a deficit, which made Lin Yi almost drop a level. Therefore, after confirming that the 2 Heaven-class masters were dead, Lin Yi suddenly fainted and forcibly entered the space of the jade pendant to recover his energy. In any case, the trouble in front of him was temporarily over. However, Lin Yi was puzzled. What kind of hatred did these 2 people who claimed to be from the Bloodcloth Underworld sect have with him? At first, Lin Yi guessed that this was done by the Supreme Elder. After all, he was the only one who knew that he had exchanged things from the Snow Valley. Only the Supreme Elder knew that there were robbers who knew his name. Chapter 2761. Lin Yi had no way to stop and replenish his true qi. He was sure that if he stopped, the opponent would catch up. "Why are you chasing me?" Lin Yi's mind was desperately trying to think of a solution. Could it be that his last trap was going to be wasted? Lin Yi wasn't willing to give up. If it was an enemy with a deep grudge, then it would be fine. But this person in front of him was completely baffling. Lin Yi was sure that this man in black was in cahoots with the 2 early-stage Heaven-class masters who blocked his way. Otherwise, there would be no reason for him to chase after him. But even if they were in cahoots, Lin Yi didn't offend the Bloodcloth Underworld sect at all. If I don't take revenge for killing my fellow sect members, how will my Bloodcloth Underworld sect have the face to stand in the world of cultivators and assassins? The man in black's cold voice came over. It was calm and didn't have the slightest fluctuation. It was as if he didn't use any energy after running for so long. "Lin Yi, don't waste your energy. I'll catch up to you sooner or later. You're just a late-stage Earth-class master. There's no way you can run away. I'm just curious, how did you kill my fellow sect members? Do you have helpers?" This was what the man in black couldn't figure out. When Lin Yi was running, he had already revealed his strength as a late-stage Earth-class master. At such a critical moment, he didn't believe that Lin Yi would still be hiding his strength. This way, the death of his fellow sect members was a little strange. In his opinion, there should be helpers around Lin Yi. But if Lin Yi had helpers, Then why was Lin Yi sitting on the ground and resting? Where were the others? And after chasing for so long, he didn't see Lin Yi calling for help. This made the man in black even more puzzled. First, tell me why you want to kill me. Then I'll tell you how they died. Lin Yi said, You don't know why I want to kill you? The man in black was stunned. He didn't think that Lin Yi would deny it. After all, killing one was killing two was also killing. There was no need for him to hide the fact that he killed the 3 profound stage assassins from the Yellow Spring sect. Could it be that the 3 assassins weren't killed by Lin Yi but someone else? I've never even heard of you before. It's true that I killed those 2 before. But I really don't know when I became enemies with you. Lin Yi smiled bitterly as he ran. Really? The man in black didn't say anything. He was even more suspicious about whether the 3 people had died at Lin Yi's hands. He planned to go back and investigate in detail. However, he didn't plan to let Lin Yi go either. Since you killed my 2 teammates from the same sect, don't blame me. Then give me your life. Oh. Lin Yi was a little speechless. What kind of logic was this? If the 2 people hadn't taken the initiative to intercept him, Lin Yi wouldn't have killed them. But now that the grudge was obviously formed, and the other party didn't mention the previous matter, Lin Yi could only bite the bullet and continue running. Lin Yi, don't think that you can escape just because you have Qinggong. It's useless. The man in black said lightly, as if he had a card up his sleeve to catch up with Lin Yi. Of course, Lin Yi naturally knew that what the man in black said was the truth. With Lin Yi's current running method, he could only last for a day at most before his true qi was completely exhausted. At that time, he would be at the mercy of the man in black. No, I can't go on like this. If this goes on, the only result is death. Gritting his teeth, Lin Yi could only take a gamble. He suddenly changed the direction of his running. Of course, he didn't change it all at once but made a slight change. Otherwise, the man in black behind him could directly change the angle and shorten the distance between the 2 of them. This was a risk that Lin Yi didn't dare to take. Lin Yi could only gradually adjust the direction of his running, so that the man in black could only follow his footsteps. Obviously, Lin Yi did it very successfully. Although the strength of the man in black was tyrannical, when it came to walking in the jungle wasteland, he was definitely not Lin Yi's opponent. Lin Yi, who had rich experience in attracting enemies in the primeval forest, successfully made the man in black accompany him in a circle, changing the direction of his escape. This time Lin Yi's goal was the Snow Valley. Yes, the closest place to here was the Snow Valley. Lin Yi had no choice but to choose this method that was not a solution. In Lin Yi's view, the man in black behind him came from the Bloodcloth Underworld sect. But even if he was also from an ancient sect, he couldn't go against another ancient sect, right? Once he entered the Snow Valley, he would be temporarily safe. He was not afraid that the man in black would wait for him at the entrance of the Snow Valley. At that time, he could completely compress a true chi bomb in the Snow Valley. After coming out, he could directly blow up the man in black in the late stage of the Heaven Realm. Even if it didn't kill him, it would be enough to cripple him. And what Lin Yi was afraid of was that the man in black would directly follow him into the Snow Valley, because it was not impossible. If this was really the case, Lin Yi hoped that the people of the Snow Valley could help him resolve this crisis. Although Lin Yi knew that if the Snow Valley helped, it might make him pay a higher price. Maybe the Supreme Elder would take back the heavenly treasures and heavenly weapons that he had exchanged, but Lin Yi had no other choice. Lin Yi only needed to keep his bottom line and get the orchid mustard jade grass. As for the other things, he could just return them. Who asked him to be so unlucky to meet 3 crazy people? Lin Yi ran in front, and the man in black chased after him. Lin Yi ran into the Snow Valley, which made the man in black frown. Although the blood-clothed underworld sect was also one of the sects on par with the ancient sects, they still had some scruples when going to other ancient sects to kill people. After all, they were in the wrong. Although they did not kill the people of the Snow Valley, the blood-clothed underworld sect would definitely pay a certain price for the blood spilled on the spot in the other sect. Of course, the man in black only frowned but did not stop, because the purpose of this trip was to kill Lin Yi. Now that 2 of his teammates were dead, he had no other choice. If he returned without accomplishing anything, the ancestor of the blood-clothed underworld sect would definitely not let him go easily. Not only did he not complete the task, but he also lost 2 people. How could he be the leader? Moreover, he broke into the Snow Valley to kill people. At most, the blood-clothed underworld sect would compensate the Snow Valley afterwards. This matter would then be forgotten, and there would not be any negative impact. Chapter 2762. But on second thought it was unlikely. There was no need for the Great Elder to do this. If he wanted a gun, he could have snatched it back in Snowy Valley. It would have been much easier to kill him. Moreover, Linny could see that the Great Elder was wary of him, so he shouldn't have made a move. If that was the case, then this Bloodcloak Yellow Spring sect was probably real. But who did the master shout "Linny will kill me" to before he died? Did he have some kind of communication device on him? Did he report it to his headquarters? But these were all secondary. When he got back, he would ask Boss Bai about this Blood Yellow Spring sect. Boss Bai was once the leader of the Five Elements sect, which was even higher than the ancient times. If this organization really existed, then Boss Bai should have some understanding of it. Linny quickly recovered his stamina. He didn't know that in the distance, there was another black-clothed man running towards him at full speed. When the Blood Yellow Spring sect carried out a mission, they usually sent 3 people. This man in black was the leader of their group. But when they ambushed Linny, he didn't come. In his mind, Linny was an Earth rank expert, and 2 early Heaven rank experts were enough to kill him. But he didn't expect that the last message he received was "Linny, kill me." In other words, both of his team members were dead? He couldn't believe it, but he couldn't contact the 2 anymore. Their communication device signal was also cut off. The man in black was shocked and rushed to the scene of the incident. His footsteps were fast, his brows were tightly furrowed, and his eyes were full of coldness. He was one of the gold medal assassins of the Blood Yellow Spring sect, with the strength of a late Heaven rank expert. Under normal circumstances, assassins with this kind of strength would rarely kill ordinary targets. Linny was an Earth rank expert. In his opinion, there was no need to use a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. If 2 of his team members could do it, there was no need for him to do it too. Therefore, he waited in the nearest small town. Just now, he was enjoying himself on the belly of a prostitute when he suddenly heard the bad news. But even so, he couldn't believe that 2 of his team members had met with misfortune. It was a bit unrealistic and beyond his understanding. How could an Earth rank expert kill 2 early Heaven rank experts? Unless he had an accomplice. Linny quickly recovered his strength. But before he could fully recover, Linny keenly sensed that someone was coming. Someone was flying towards him at an extremely fast speed. It was just that this person was currently far from Linny, so Linny couldn't know his level. Linny didn't know whether he was an enemy or a friend. But most likely it wasn't a friend. Especially the words of the other early Heaven rank expert said before he died. Linny had a bad feeling sure enough. When the distance of this person was getting closer and closer, Linny's jade pendant sent out a strong warning signal. It seemed that this person was very dangerous. If it wasn't for the threat to Linny's life, the jade pendant wouldn't have given such a strong warning. Linny couldn't help but secretly complain in his heart. His physical strength had just recovered by a small portion. It was impossible for him to activate the 7th or 8th style of the Raging Fire 8 trigrams palm. He could only activate the 5th style of the Raging Fire 8 trigrams palm. Maybe the 6th style would be a bit difficult. Chi Bomb was even more out of the question. First, there was no time to compress it. Second, there was not enough energy in his body. 500 meters away from Linny, a black shadow quickly ran towards him. Linny also clearly saw the strength of the person coming. Late Heaven rank. Linny's heart skipped a beat. Wasn't this asking for his life? Not to mention a late Heaven rank, even if there was another early Heaven rank, he wouldn't be a match for him. With his current situation, he could barely fight against an expert of the same level. Of the 36 stratagems, escape was the best strategy. When the person approached him, Linny suddenly stood up and ran. He didn't care about his car anymore. If he died, the treasures and heavenly weapons in the car would eventually fall into someone else's pocket. So Linny didn't think much at all and directly ran away. The black-clothed man saw that Linny suddenly stood up and ran away. He was also stunned, but he didn't hesitate. He didn't even look at the 2 corpses on the ground in Linny's car. He directly chased after Linny. His mission was to kill Linny. As for what was in Linny's car, he didn't know and didn't care. As for the corpses, this was the wilderness. No one would pass by. It wouldn't be too late to collect the corpses of his companions after killing Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't dare to be negligent. A late heaven rank master. Although he had the advantage in speed after using the butterfly microstep Qinggong, he didn't dare to be careless. Who knew if the person also knew Qinggong? If he also knew Qinggong, even if it was Yu Xiaoke's weak Qinggong, he would be fucked. A late heaven rank master was not on the same level as him in terms of physical strength. If Lin Yi couldn't get rid of the person behind him, he would be killed sooner or later. Lin Yi exploded at this moment. He couldn't not explode. He wished he could turn into the purple lightning beast and run forward desperately. After running for about 10 minutes, Lin Yi felt that he should have gotten rid of the person behind him. Lin Yi had also seen the Qinggong of little girl Bingtang. With his current speed, he was afraid that little girl Bingtang wouldn't be able to catch up. However, when Lin Yi turned around, he was shocked. That black-clothed man was actually still behind him. Although the distance was still the same, it wasn't close but a little far. However, this was the result of Lin Yi's burst. Lin Yi couldn't always be in a state of burst, so the distance was a little further. This wasn't something to be happy about. The black-clothed man could easily make up for this gap. Of course, what made Lin Yi shocked was why this black-clothed man could run so fast. He used the butterfly microstep Qinggong. In theory, it was impossible for the other party to catch up, but now Lin Yi didn't get rid of him. This was a bit strange. Lin Yi could be sure that the other party must have some secret method. Otherwise, if Lin Yi faced a late heaven rank master, he could barely escape if he couldn't beat him. But now this person seemed to have the same speed as him, and he couldn't get rid of him.